What is up, Pokemon people? This is Michael Shawn from Unison Games coming at you with our set review of Darkness Ablaze. As you know, this weekend, Darkness Ablaze dropped, and we thought it would be a good time to bring you a set review of all the cards. So joining me, I have Wynter from Team Metroflex. What is up, Wynter?
What's going on, Michael?
Dude.
Happy Saturday.
Yes, happy Saturday. So yeah, we're the Pokemon side of Team Metroflex as it stands right now. We're slowly trying to convert the Transformer guys into Pokemon now that we lost the Transformers card game support. So maybe we'll have more people in the next set review. We'll see. But let's just go over the rating system before we get started. So each of us are going to give a number to every card that is either a final evolution, a rare, whatever. And the rating system is 1 to 5, 1 being trash garbage, 2 being pretty bad, but who knows, maybe somebody could make it work, 3 being mediocre or unsure, 4 being seems good, like it's probably going to see play, and 5 being like Crazy Town Banana Pants. We're like going all in on this card. It's super good. It's going to be a deck. So yeah, that's what we got. You ready to jump in, Wynter?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So right off the bat, we've got a VMax combo with BUTTERFREE. So the basic form of it has 190 HP, fire weakness, 2 attacks. The first one is Dizzying Poison. Your opponent's active is confused and poisoned. And then for 2 grass and a colorless Blasting Wind for 130. And then the VMax has 300 HP, 0 retreat. 2 grass energy and a colorless. You have G-Max Tox Breeze for 150. Your opponent's active is confused and poisoned. Wynter, what are your thoughts on this card?
So BUTTERFREE V, like it's I always like the one cost. Like we have a BUTTERFREE in one of the earlier Sword and Shield sets that is 1, and it both confuses and poisons. I always think they're kind of cool. Like I like those the variants of attacks. I don't think this is a good card. However, I do really like BUTTERFREE VMax. I think it's like 150. For having that same kind of thing, like 150 plus confuses poison is really good. You can accelerate with Rose. You can potentially, slow your opponent down with kind of energy denial to get it going. You could play like some sort of like control deck, like special condition control. I think it's fine. I mean, it's definitely like one of those more like a fun deck, but I think having access to cards like Rose that let you accelerate that energy is what really helped not only BUTTERFREE VMax, but VMaxes in general.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the attack on the VMax is fine. And even that first like 1 energy attack is okay too. I really think that's like the defining factors of most Vs is like, do they have just a quick like 1 energy attack or like a 2 energy attack in a deck that has a lot of energy acceleration that is okay. And I think Dizzying Poison is fine, and I think G-Max Tox Breeze is also fine. I think the big thing that worries me about this card is that it's grass and it has 300 HP. That's like super low. I mean, that's the lowest that VMAXs have gotten so far. So yeah, I think my number on this thing, just because like the attacks are okay, I'm gonna give it a 2. Like, because I don't think it's like absolutely horrible, but I do think that HP is pretty bad, and that the attacks aren't quite good enough to like make up for it. So I'm gonna give it a 2. Wynter, what's your number?
I'm gonna give it a 2 as well because I think it's cool. I also kind of like the flavor of the free retreat on the BUTTERFREE VMax because I don't know, it has larger wings,
Yeah,
so
right.
it can retreat easier. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, it just doesn't one shot a lot of the relevant a lot of things in this format are one shotting, like one shot attacks, and 150 just doesn't do that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a 2.
Cool. All right, let's go to our next card. Our next card is Parasect. This is just one of the final evolutions in the set. I think this one's pretty bad. We'll try to go really quick on the bad ones. So it's a stage 1, 120 HP, fire weakness, 2 retreat, mushroom tackle, 30, flip a coin if heads your opponent's active is paralyzed, 2 grass and a colorless solar beam for 110. The only thing I do have to say about this card is in like a limited format, you do have Glimwood Tangle. So like if you get Glimwood Tangle in your card pool for limited, whether it be like a sealed build and battle or like a draft if you have somewhere that's doing that. All these like flip a coins then paralyze attacks are actually like pretty okay if you get limited tangle. So that's like the only good thing about this. But in like a context of constructed, this is definitely a 1.
Yeah, definitely a 1. I like the art. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the art's cool. The art is cool. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on, I had to put CARNIVINE in here just because it is like so good for limited. So like I don't even need to read the rest of the card, but like return that just says you can draw until you have 5 cards in hand. That seems really fun and limited. So I think this is one of those things to keep your eyes out if you're doing like limited tournaments, like Unison Games is going to be running in a couple weeks, or if you're doing any other limited tournament at your LGSs there. So this is really bad. It's definitely a 1, but again, it's good for limited. So I had to include it. So yeah, all right. So next we got the SIMI'S. So we got Simisage, Simisear, Simipour. The first attack is named different for all of them. It costs 1 of their respective energies, and it does 30 damage. And then for 3 colorless, you got Giga Impact, 110. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So a lot of people have been talking about this card, saying that it's not terrible because you've got all these stage 1s that can evolve and hit for 110 in like relevant weaknesses for a triple acceleration energy. So in decks that you might be playing triple acceleration for other reasons, these might not be a bad include. To that line of reasoning, I say, I mean, how many decks are actually playing triple acceleration, first of all? Second of all, we're losing Ditto Prism Star to the rotation, so you have to play like the full line. Third of all, if you prize a piece of the line, then you can't use it anyway. I really don't like it. Like a lot of people have been talking about how they might like it. I really don't though. What do you think, Winter?
I think I don't know. Yeah, you have triple acceleration energy. I mean, you have Welder for the Simisear, which it's a 1 prizer. But it's just so many better options. I give them 1s all around. I mean, I am not thrilled about the prospect of playing these, but they're cool for sure.
I will say the Pansear has like amazing art. Like I was just flipping through the cards, and its pre-evolution is amazing. But yeah, I'm at a 1 too. I think one thing that because it's worth mentioning early on that one of the big things with looking at the numbers here is you really have to be able to 2-shot VMaxes. And these Simis are not going to do that unless. So even with weakness, you're still not getting a 1-shot. So you should be able to 2-shot or 1-shot with weakness, but you're only going to get up to 220 with these. You're not even gonna get some of the V's for 220. So
right.
So yeah, I'm really not a fan. I think this is a 1 for me as well. But next we got an ACCELGOR. This is a rare somehow, 90 HP, Jet Headbutt for 70 for like 2 colorless. Also seems really bad. But it is a rare, so we had to look at the picture, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the art is cool. This is the equivalent in Magic of like a 2/1.
Yeah.
Just like a 2/1 vanilla creature. I mean, it does 70 for twin energy. I mean, like, I don't know. Weirdly enough, like it's definitely bad, but like I don't hate it. There's something about it having 1 attack for 70, just vanilla, that I just like a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, like if you do like a limited play out of the build and battles, and you somehow end up with like a twin energy or something, like it's not terrible, I guess. But
no,
I like ACCELGOR. I think he's cool. But
ACCELGOR is a cool Pokemon. I like the flavor behind what is it? There's like the 2 bug Pokemon, when you trade them and then
right.
then, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I like the flavor.
So definitely a 1 for constructed, but still kind of cool. All right, moving into, we had to put this Rowlet on here. Winter, I know you're pretty hot on this Rowlet. So it's a 50 HP Rowlet. It's got Sky Circus. If you played Bird Keeper from hand during this turn, ignore all energy in this opponent's attack cost. That is an ability that several bird Pokemon have in this set, so it's worth kind of pointing it out right away. And then we got 3 colorless energy, Wind Shard. This does 60 damage to 1 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So Winter, I'll let you talk about this card because I know you told me that you really like it. Yeah,
I think this card's really cool. I mean, I'm a big Rowlet fan to begin with. Wind Shard having like having like 60 damage like sniping on a like a little basic like Rowlet is really cool. The downside and what makes me like not as, because I saw that attack and I was like, wow, this is really good. I mean, you could if you wanted, you could even weld her onto it, you know, like we had that dugong that did this but for 2. But the downside is you kind of have to play Bird Keeper, and just Bird Keeper is just not good. That's really the problem with the card. Like, I think the ability is really cool, and I think there's definitely a deck that's gonna, you know, the Sky Circus deck. This is definitely gonna be like a cool fringe deck that I'm gonna be all about, of course. But I just think the you know, I mean, Bird Keeper, the trade off for getting the free attack, I get it, but you just have to play Bird Keeper, which is just really bad and clunky and means you're not playing a card that you like, a supporter that you actually should play, you know?
Right. Well, I think like Bird Keeper, just to kind of I don't know. I actually think Bird Keeper is really good, but it's not good as your 4 of supporter. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really good card to have like 1 copy of it in your deck. But
yes, yeah,
but like it's not a good card to be your main supporter. So I do think that Sky Circus like has that like intrinsic weakness. I think considering what Rowlet evolves into, which we're about to talk about, like I gotta like it's a really solid pre-evolution for that card. So yeah, I would say maybe it's the best pre-evolution in the set, like by far, and yeah, and like maybe you will get that Sky Circus, because like I said, I think a lot of decks are going to play Bird Keeper in counts of 1 or 2. So like maybe you get lucky and like on your first turn going second, you have 1 in hand, and then it's like kind of worth it, you know. So I'm going to give this one intrinsically like a 2. It's still like you're not going to build around this card, but you know, I'm going to give it a 2 just because it's cool. But let's move into its post evolution here with Decidueye. Decidueye's got another ability. Deep Forest can't prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Vs and GXs. And then for a Grass and a Colorless, you got Splitting Arrow, 90 damage, then does 20 to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Wynter, I'll let you talk about this one too, because I know you really like it.
Yeah, I mean, this card's super sweet. I mean, we get Safeguard back, which is cool. Prevent all damage of this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's V, and your Pokemon V and Pokemon GX, which is super relevant because that's what the meta is right now. People are playing a ton of Pokemon Vs, ton of Pokemon GXs. It's got a solid attack, Splitting Arrow, 90 damage, and then you get to deal a little bit of damage to the bench, 20 to 2, which is really cool. It has, you can retreat it with Air Balloon, which is nice, so you can do that. It's a target for Turfield, which is awesome too. And then if you play Rare Candy, like boom, you're like all set to go. And this is just awesome to just stall out, deal some little damage to the bench. And yeah, it's just it does a lot of what you want it to do. Like this card has a lot of versatility. It can fit in a lot of different decks. You know, like you're definitely playing. This is like definitely like a build around. You're building a deck like this, but it's also like a really good just like kind of stall, see what my opponent's doing, see what they're going to do. It's a very you know, like reactive card. You know what I mean? Like you're, you know, and it acts at the same time. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I really love this card too. Having immunities to both Vs and GXs is really cool, because I do think that we're going to be going into a really VMAX heavy format, but we still do have those GXs floating around. You know, I think as long as GXs are legal, people are going to be looking for like that 1 GX attack per game. So having immunity to both is really good. Yeah, and I think the attack is great. And you're right, like with Turffield Stadium, this card just gets way better than other Stage 2s because you can just search it right out. Like, I could totally see a deck without even like playing a Dartrix be okay with Decidueye. Like, you probably want to play at least one, but I think like you could probably make this work without it. And the way that I've heard a lot of people talking about this card is playing it kind of like Obstagoon was when Obstagoon was really good, or when and if Obstagoon was really good, maybe would be a better way to say that. But yeah, where you just try to like have nothing but Decidueye on the board, and so you can use Scoop Up Net to achieve that by trying to go like lone Decidueye to just totally lock your opponent out of the game. I think this is going to be a really good card, and then people are going to start teching against it, and then we'll have to see whether it becomes really good. But for right now, it's going to be awesome. Like, I'll give this like a solid 4. What about you, Winter?
Yeah, I was going to say 4 as well. I'm giving it a 4, just because it's the HP is still low. I mean, I understand that we're not going to have we're going to see primarily it's primarily this is going to be like a stall card. It's not really going anywhere, but it does have low HP, and it's also a stage 2. I'm comparing it to a card like. Oh shoot! I played in expanded, but it's a card that blocks the damage from basic Pokemon, which is incredible. I mean, that's basic, of course, but that's a stage 1,
Right.
and it's having it be a stage 2, where maybe you prize a couple rare candies, or you what I mean, you prize your 1 Dartrix that you're playing. If you're playing it, it can get kind of clunky. It takes a little bit of potentially longer setup time. So. But yeah, we have Turffield Stadium, which helps that. So I'm going to give it a solid 4.
Yeah, me too. Sweet. All right, so going into another card that I know you like, GOLISOPOD. I do love that they're printing like good grass Pokemon in this set. I do feel like grass Pokemon have kind of been like neglected as a whole, so I'm pretty excited for that. But this one has 130 HP. It's a stage 1. So here's that example of what Winter was just talking about, that GOLISOPOD is a stage 1 and only has 10 HP less than Decidueye. So yeah, it definitely has low HP. But for 2 colorless energy here, you can do Hard Times / 30 plus. This does 50 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon V and GX in play. And then Grass 2 colorless for Smash Turn. Hit for 70. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So I think this card's super cool. I mean, if you just run through the math, if they've got a full bench of GXs and Vs, maybe let's say they have 1 Jirachi, right? So you got 5 on the bench here. You're going to be hitting for 280 with this. And if for some reason they don't play right or whatever, and they have 6 GXs or Vs in play, now you're hitting for 330. I think this card's really good. I think this card actually could be its own deck, just because you're gonna solidly 2-shot pretty much anything that's trying to play like Vs and VMaxes. So until they catch on that you're playing GOLISOPOD, and that's the downfall of this card. Because if they know that you're playing GOLISOPOD, well, now they just don't bench their GXs and Vs, which isn't a bad thing, because if they can't play Dedenne, that's going to slow them down quite a bit. But it's still I don't know, it's very easy to anticipate because it's a very linear deck. So I do think that that's where the card struggles, but I think that overall it's pretty solid. So what do you think, Winter?
Yeah, I really like this card a lot. 130, I mean, just like you mentioned, 130 for a stage 1 is actually pretty good. That's on kind of the higher end. So I like that there. Hard Time Slash is awesome. This card just poses Eternatus VMAX decks, dark decks, because I mean, with Eternatus VMAX, they have the potential to have up to 8 Pokemon on the bench there. So you could, and this is 50 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon V and GX. I mean, imagine having the active, the 8 bench Pokemon, you're hitting for 480 damage potentially at the highest for a Twin Energy, which is really cool. It's kind of cool to see a powerful stage 1, and just for a Twin Energy. So I think it's really cool. It's great for spread decks as well. It's decks that are playing a lot of Weezings on the bench, or just in general. It's a nice strong stage 1, which is something that I think we need a little bit more of. I see them pushing evolution, not necessarily from not just the VMAX, but also just your basic stage 1, stage 2 evolution lines, and I really like that.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna give this thing a 4, just like we did for Decidueye. I think it has just as much potential as Decidueye does, but that may not be the popular opinion. What are you thinking, Winter?
I'm gonna give it a 3. I mean, I like this card a lot. It would be really cool. I mean, I understand we get Air Balloon to be able to retreat this. It'd be nice to see this at a 1 retreat. Which is kind of funny because I feel like the Wimpod lines typically get that, their whole thing is they get pre-retreat, you can move them out. I think 2 is just kind of high for this card. I know it seems that's pretty technical, but I think if this had 1 retreat with something like U-turn board you keep reusing over and over, I think that would be good. Yeah. And also Hard Time Flash is great when it's great, and it's bad when it's bad. That's the other thing too. So I'm going to give it a 3 just because it has a lot of potential, but I don't really want to go any higher than that because it does have a lot of drawbacks as well.
Yeah, you're probably on the right side of history there. So cool. All right, going to our fire Pokemon. We've got starting right out with Charizard V and Charizard V Max. The basic V has 220 HP, water, weakness. It has 2 attacks. For 3 colorless, you Claw Slash for 80, and for 2 fire, 2 colorless, you Fire Spin for 220 and discard 2 energy from this. The V Max has similar attacks where it's 3 colorless for Claw Slash 100, and 3 fire, 2 colorless for Fire Spin 300, and you have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. It does have 330 HP as a V Max. Winter, why don't you open us up on this?
Sure. So I love Charizard, but not necessarily from a playing perspective. I collect as well, and I've been hunting for these cards because Charizard is very collectible. Playability wise, I don't really like Charizard V. I think 4 for 220, discard 2 energy. That's high and that's fine. But it's the discarding 2 energy is definitely a drawback. I feel like I feel like it would be a little bit better if we had kind of like a Reshizard kind of attack, where it was a high amount like this, but they just couldn't attack next turn, and you could find some way to kind of like switch around it or, something like that. I feel like the discard 2 is just a really big drawback for, if it was 3 discard 2, I could get that, but you could just welder and then knock 2 off. Like I would understand, but 4 is just kind of a lot. Charizard VMAX is, I think a little bit better just because the damage output is so high. But and you get access to, what is it? You get access to like triple acceleration energy. Like you have ways to like incorporate more damage into it, but I still like playability wise, I don't think they're that great. I mean, Charizard VMAX more so just because you have that, that high 300, but they're just kind of like meh. Charizard's never been like a really like awesome card on he's been like really powerful and definitely that kind of like, like whoa, boss monster, but because of the damage, but in terms of playability, Charizard hasn't really been a super playable card. Even in its history, it's been more of a ooh, dragon Pokemon, collecting type thing,
Right. Yeah, Charizard V is like absolutely horrible. It's so bad. Like if you look at the things, so for 3 energy, right? Because with a fire Pokemon, you got to look at what you can welder and attack with right away. So basically, for a welder, you hit 80 damage, which is so bad. Because like HEATRAN GX hits for 130, Cinderace hits for 140, I believe. It's just really terrible. And I think you're right though. The VMAX has more potential, where it's really not too bad. Like a welder for 100, that's still pretty bad. Like 3 energy is still pretty bad. But GMAX Wildfire for 300, I think the biggest problem with it is just that it costs 5 energy. So you have to get 2 welders to get that going essentially, or 1 welder and like a triple acceleration. And I don't know. It seems just really bad. You discard 2 energy from it after that, so you got to welder again. Basically, yeah, I really don't like it. It has 330, which is like I guess a little bit beefier. I don't know why they didn't give this one 340. This definitely seems like one of the Pokemon that should have 340, just because it's big. It's stage 2, but. I don't know. Like, I mean, I was talking to Winter before this, just about like maybe you could play like Heat Fire Energy and like give it extra HP, but then then you don't have that basic fire energy that you can welder on. So it's a little bit more clunky to play that. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't hate Charizard VMAX, so like I don't want to like totally downvote it, but I also like Charizard V is terrible. That's a really, really bad card. And Charizard VMAX is just kind of whatever. So I feel like I'm just going to give the pair of them like a 2. But it feels bad to give Charizard a 2. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it probably like a 3, only because like you need Charizard V to make Charizard VMAX, and like 300 is pretty good. I mean, there's ways to kind of let this boss monster kind of sit on your bench. You could do like some energy denial. You could use crushing hammers. Like you could make just a deck out of like having to deal with the drawbacks of losing your energy. So yeah, I would give it a 3 just because of that raw power of 300 damage. But I think it's important to kind of keep in mind that 300 is kind of a weird number because
Yeah.
it's a lot of damage and you're knocking out Vs, but you're not one-shotting VMaxes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like their card, like GOLISOPOD we were just talking about, that stage 1, that can potentially one-shot a VMax.
Right.
300 is the most you're going to do with this.
Yeah.
Without
Right.
some sort of, additional, like if you have like like some sort of like extra tool to add on there.
Right.
But that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. But 300 is kind of a weird number for an attack.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In this format.
Yep. It really is. And yeah, I think one thing that we can say definitely for Charizard, like people are going to play Charizard because people love Charizard. So you're going to see this sitting across the table from you as long as we have tournaments. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at for Charizard. Moving on to the next one, we have HOUNDOOM V. For 1 fire, it's 210, basic V, water weakness, 1 retreat. For 1 fire, you Searing Flame, 20 damage. Your opponent's active is now burned, so you do at least 40 damage. And then for 2 fire and a colorless Vengeful Flame, 100 plus. If your benched fire Pokemon have any damage counters on them, this does 100 more damage. So I was looking at this card. Originally, when I first saw this card leaked, I was like, this is kind of dumb. Like, I don't think that's really that good. But then as I was thinking about it, I think you could maybe make a deck with this because 2 fire and a colorless, Vengeful Flame, so 1 welder essentially, so 1 turn you get it going. If your bench fire Pokemon have damage counters on them, well, there's a couple things that you could do with that. One of the things, and they're varying degrees of setup. So the two ideas that come to my mind is Spiritomb from Unbroken Bonds with what is that? Is that Mr. Mime?
Jinx.
Yeah,
Jinx.
Oh, it's Jinx, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It's Jinx. Mm-hmm. So with Jinx from Unified Minds, and you could kind of like move damage to some fire Pokemon. The other thing that you do, so that's 2 basic Pokemons you got to get out. The other thing you can do is you could try to play this with Charizard from Team Up that puts damage on itself to get energy out onto the field. That could be kind of interesting. I really like that. I don't know if that's definitely the worst version of it, just because trying to get a stage 2 is a lot harder than just trying to get 2 basics that are just a quick ball away. But I think that is something that damages itself, kind of similar to how Spiritomb works. But it's already fire, so you don't have to play a Jinx or anything like that. So that's my thoughts on the card. I do think it could be playable. I don't know that it's going to be great. You're hitting 200 on a V, which isn't bad. But again, 200 isn't going to get you your Vs. I mean, you can see HOUNDOOM itself is 210, so you're going to have to be like playing around with Goons or something like that to get one-shots on your Vs, which you definitely want to be doing with Vengeful Flame. So I'm not sure how great it's going to be, but it's definitely usable. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I look at this card and I'm like, man, they chose a bad time for Rainbow Energy to be rotating out. Of course,
Yeah.
They would not have this, they would not have that synergy happen. But yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, man, we need a Rainbow Energy right now. But yeah, I think probably Spiritomb Jinx is probably the most optimal way to play this card. I mean, it's definitely gimmicky. That's kind of my issue with it. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, like you can welder on there and do 100, potentially do 200. Spike Myth being in the format now,
Mm-hmm.
you can find a way to kind of like switch out and put put those 2 damages on there. Right. You're good. But it's definitely gimmick. It's definitely gimmicky. I even think Searing Flame is fine. To burn for 20, well, really 40. So I think that's fine even. No, I think the card's pretty solid. I'm going to give it a 3, only because it's definitely a card that's meant for a specific deck. But I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I'm going to give it like a solid 3. I think it's, I don't know how much success it's going to have, but it does have like enough synergy to where I think people are at least going to try to make it work. So, yeah. All right, next up we got Blaziken. Blaziken has 170 HP, 2 retreat cost. It's a stage 2 with water weakness. It's got an ability double type. As long as this Pokemon is in play, it is fire and fighting. And for 1 fire, 2 colorless, you got Turbo Drive 130. Attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. What do you think about this, Winter?
Oh man, I am so happy that you reminded me this card existed when we were kind of going over our set review. So I'm playing a deck in expanded called Life Explosion. It's with Cradilly, where you basically just get a ton of stage 2 dudes on your bench. This card is really fun because it's got double type. So bringing it back to standard here, it's a stage 2, and it's definitely like it's a rare candy target for sure. You want to get this card out, but this card could potentially be decent as like kind of a tech against Pikarom, because it's a fire type, but it also counts the fighting type. So your 260 is one-shotting a Pikarom, you know what I mean, with just a welder, So it's kind of cool for fire decks to be able to play some kind of versatility here. It's got this kind of it's strong, but it's got kind of the same drawback as even a card as powerful as Decidueye is that it's a stage 2, which means that you need to rely on rare candy or even just a one of Combuskin to be able to evolve it. But you really want to get this card out as soon as possible to make best use of it. I mean, ideal would be, getting it on your turn 2, weldering, and then hopefully knocking out a Pikarom if you're playing against that kind of deck. That would probably be where your kind of like dream plan would be. But 172 for a stage 2, that's pretty good. That's up there. That HP is, I think, is noteworthy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about that HP. I will say, like, so you got to look at the damage that it does. So yeah, it's gonna hit 2 weaknesses, but it only does 130 for its attack. So 130 double, that's 260. So like Winter said, you are going to get a Pikarom, you are going to get a Raichu, a Lowland Raichu. You are going to get pretty much, all of the Vs that are of the relevant typings for that. The problem is when you go up against your VMax decks. Your VMaxes are definitely going to be able to one-shot you. Like pretty much every VMax can hit 170 like pretty easily, pretty reliably. So you're going to be getting one-shotted, and you're not two-shotting them because you're only hitting 260. So that, I think, that's my biggest issue with this card, and I really can't think of any way to overcome that. It does, like, the card as a stage 2 is more, it's easier to set up than most stage 2s, only because you get that intrinsic, like, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Like, you don't even have to play Welder with this. In fact, if you were going to build a Blaziken deck, I would probably encourage you not to play Welder and just play some Fire Energies and some Twin Energies so that you could play your Professor's Research to make sure that you're getting all your pieces every turn. And then it just kind of sets itself up because it has intrinsic energy acceleration. So I do think that it's easier to set up than most stage 2s are, but at the same time, I don't think the numbers are high enough to let us play this card. So I'm going to stick at a 3. Like, I like this card, but I don't know that it's going to see a lot of play. So I'm going to stick at a 3. What do you think, Winter?
I'm actually going to give it a 2. I mean, I really like this card, but it's just not. It's not optimal. That's the issue. Like, it's fun for sure, but how, I say, oh, it can one shot a Pikarom, but like, how relevant is Pikarom going to be? How relevant is a grass deck like Butterfree going to be? I'm definitely going to play this probably in expanded in that one deck that's Fringe. So I don't know. I think I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep mine at a 3 just because there is that option of just like playing this with like a ton of gust and then maybe just making sure that you're always knocking out those lower HP. Like, you might be able to just play around the VMAXs. So I'm going to stick at, and it being fighting, you can, like, you not only hit Dedenne, you also hit Crobat, like, so there may be like gust targets to make this thing work, but I'm not saying it's a great card at all. So cool. Well, let's go on to our next one. We got Heatran here. Heatran is one of the rares from the set. It's a fire and a colorless Fire Fang 30 and burn, and then 2 fires and a colorless Raging Flare 80. This does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this. I hate it when they put attacks like this on little dudes that have like 130. That will for sure be getting knocked out. This is a really terrible card. Winter, do you have anything good to say about this card?
This would be kind of cool in like a limited deck where you got Houndoom or something like that. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That's kind of where it would be in some sort of deck like that. I don't think we'll see that in any standard meta, but I feel like if you were playing this in like limited, you'd want to have this with Houndoom. But I would give it a 1.
Yeah, same. Same. All right, next one. I think this is probably another one for us, but it's Galarian Darmanitan. It's worth pointing out that this is a fire Pokemon that attacks for water energy. So I think the biggest thing I've heard people saying is like, if you're playing a water deck, this might be an include just to cover some weaknesses. The thing is that you know, the water decks used to be weak to grass, which means that grass decks were weak to fire, so that could be cool. But now most water Pokemon are weak to lightning, which is not weak to fire. So I think like fire techs in water decks are probably pretty much dead. So I don't even think I need to read this card, right, Winter?
Yeah, no, I mean, I see what they're trying to do, and it's cool, and I give them credit. I think it's interesting. If this were like a basic, that would be a different story.
Sure.
But having it be a stage one where we don't have Ditto, you have to play, the Darumaka.
Right.
No, yeah, I wouldn't give it a 1.
Yeah, same. All right, Volcarona. This is a card that I was like super excited about because I like Volcaronas, and then I saw like a 1 energy attack. I was like, okay, what's going on here? So it's a stage 1, 120. 1 fire energy will get you to cauterize 80, and if your opponent's active has no damage on it before this attack does damage, this attack does nothing. And for 2 fire and a colorless fire wing for 110. So I was like all excited. I was like, oh, let me look at this when I saw it, and then I realized it was really terrible. So that was really sad. So you have to do damage to your opponent in order to hit for 1 energy. And I think one thing that I noticed about a lot of stage 1s in this set is that they have all these like 1 energy attacks that would be great on basics, like Winter just said. But the problem is like I have 2 turns to get energy onto this thing. So I would much rather see a stage 1 with a strong 2 energy attack than a like okay 1 energy attack. So I think that was like a big thing for me with a lot of the stage 1s in this set. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, it's if Cauterize was kind of the reverse, where it said if this active Pokemon has damage counters on it before this attack does damage, this attack does nothing. I think the reverse would kind of be cool because it would kind of incentivize like, okay, this but you have to have the damage counters on it. That's the thing. Like if you just like turn 1 played your Larvesta, turn 2 played this, and potentially like if it's like a Grass or Steel, get a damage modifier in there, you could do like a ton of damage.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something else. But having to have damage counters on it, I mean, it's like, no, I'm just going to give it a 1.
Yeah, me too. I think the idea was that you want to play this with Volcarona GX, but Volcarona GX isn't that good either. So yeah, I'm going to definitely give this a 1.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on into a card that I'm really excited to talk about is CENTISKORCH V and CENTISKORCH V Max. So the V has 210 HP, water weakness, of course, and for 1 fire energy, you have Radiating Heat, 20 damage. You may discard an energy from this Pokemon. If you do, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. And then for 4 fire energy, Burning Train does 180. Then the V Max has 320, and water weakness, 3 retreat. It has for 2 colorless G Max Scentiferno, which is like the best name for an attack. 40 plus. This does 40 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. If you did any damage with this attack, you may attach a fire energy card from your discard pile to this. So I think this is really interesting. The first thing I want to point out is when I was reading Charizard VMAX, my immediate thought was 5 energies for 300. Can't CENTISKORCH do that? So I ran through the math. 5 energies on Gmax Scentiferno, 5 times 4 is not 300. so that's actually only going to be 200. So it is worth pointing out that if you just want to hit 300, Charizard VMAX is definitely a better option, plus it has 10 more HP. However, when are you in a fire deck going to get 5 energies onto a Pokemon without getting 6 energies onto the Pokemon? So Welder's goal is to attach 3 energies every turn. So now we have 6 energies on our Gmax Scentiferno on the turn that it evolves. 6 times 4 is 240, which isn't too bad. And then you attach, right after the damage, you attach another energy. And now next turn, you're hitting 280, which again is a pretty key number. So I think a big thing for me is you want CENTISKORCH to stick around. So I could kind of see playing this with like Big Charm, and then trying to play heal to some degree, like a lot of Malolanas or something. I think it could make a really interesting deck. I know that it was one of the ones that was seeing some play in Japan when it came out. So yeah, I'm a fan of this card. I think it's cool. I think you got to get a lot of fire energy on to get your numbers where you want them to be. So I don't know, but at the same time, it is a VMax, so you might be able to go the 2-hit KO route instead. And in that case, you actually don't need very much fire energy at all. If you think of something like an Eternatus that has 340, well, that means that you want to be hitting what, 170 per turn, and 170 you would need. Essentially, you would need 3 energy the first time, which is 1 welder, and that would attach an energy to itself. And now, without having to attach any energy to that CENTISKORCH, you can now 2-shot next turn because you got that extra damage from the fire energy that you got from your discard pile. So I think as a 2-shot deck, this thing is awesome. I don't know how great your 1-shot potential is. I think if you want to take the 1-shot, you probably just play HEATRAN GX, move all the energy that you've been putting on your CENTISKORCHes onto HEATRAN, and take that one big 1-shot, which is just another thing that this deck does really well. HEATRAN goes in this deck really awesomely. But I'm going to shut up because, Winter, I want to hear what you think about this card.
Yeah, I like CENTISKORCH V and VMax, and I agree with what you're saying. Where you need to have CENTISKORCH. Like this has to be your boss monster. Like you have to have this stick around. This would be an argument for playing heat fire energy to add 20 HP. Like this card is definitely like it does more damage the longer it sticks around. It's very incremental. So you can attach. You also can get some fire energy like using the attack. Like get it on CENTISKORCH VMax, you know, like and keep increasing your damage output. I even like CENTISKORCH V's radiating heat attack. Like I think no, it's not bad because in the early game it's great for kind of like denial, you know, but also like it you know, it's great for denial, but it also kind of like is starting to get you prepared for kind of like you can prepare for what your long game is going to be. I mean, even Burning Train, like 180 for 4, you know, it's kind of like, but it's not. 180 is a lot. You know what I mean? Like if you, let's say you are going second and you play Radiating Heat, that's what you start off with, you know, and then you're losing the energy, so that doesn't really help. But 180 is not bad. And then the VMax, of course, is really strong. It's just, it's a really good, like, kind of like as you build up your defenses, as you build up what you want to do, you're gaining more energy. And on top of weldering, on top of, you know, like turbo patching, you know what I mean? Like just all different ways now to get energy from your discard pile back into your Pokemon. So, you know, and this attack does it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is going to be really cool. I think this is a lot better. Like I've been testing Firebox with Cinderace VMax in it. I think this is way better for like a Firebox style deck. But I don't even think it becomes Firebox. I think you just try to build around CENTISKORCH. But because of the low attack cost in CENTISKORCH VMaxing, if you're trying to 2-shot, it kind of opens the door to play other fire attackers as well that may be more suited. I mean, we already talked about HEATRAN, but there's other ones as well, or even non-fire attackers like Double and Cramorant that could possibly be welder targets and clean up games for you. So I really like this card. Like I'm going to stretch and even give this card a 5 because I'm super excited to play it. That might be a little bit more than some other people would rate it, but I'm just going to give it a 5. What do you think, Winter?
I'm going to give it like a 3.5. Like it's like I'm gonna, only because like this is a card that is gonna take you a while to set up. I think it's funny how Radiating Heat, or not Radiating Heat, Radiating Heat, my bad, is like it lets you put energy in the discard, and then like CENTISKORCH VMax can potentially attach it back on. It's just it's a strong combo, but it's also very slow. Like you have to be ready to protect your boss monster here, you know, and I think that's going to, you know, you're going to be out some resources, you know, you got to use Crushing Hammer, Team Yell Grunt. You're kind of like protecting this one giant monster here, which is, or Pokemon, but like, you know, that's kind of where I'm seeing it. I think it could be a little slow, which is kind of the drawback here. I don't think it's your out of the box, like boom card. You know what I mean? I think you need to kind of like build up a little bit with it, you know?
Yeah. So I guess we'll see then in our testing how CENTISKORCH does.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me like the numbers really line up, but I do absolutely see what you're saying that it can be slow and it's not a lot of damage all at once. So
Right.
so yeah. Very cool. All right, let's go to our next one then. All right, so our first water Pokemon is Galarian Mr. Rime, 120 HP, 2 retreat, metal weakness. It has an ability Shuffle Dance. Once during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's face-down prize cards with the top card of their deck. And then for a water energy and 2 colorless, you got Mad Party. 20 times this damage does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has the Mad Party attack. Winter, I'll let you talk about the Mad Party people.
Honestly, I'm just gonna my explanation of this card is very short. I'm gonna give it a 1. This card is terrible, but it's great for Mad Party. Yeah, this card is not even really a card. It's not gonna see play. It's literally just gonna be quickballed away or Roxied away or an expanded battle compressored away. It's just gonna be a fodder for Mad Party.
Yeah. Absolutely. So worth mentioning, the Mad Party mechanic is the first time we've seen it in the set review so far. The attack itself does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has Mad Party. For those of you guys that have been playing for a little while or playing Expanded, you know about Night March. This is the same thing. And I think the biggest thing here that's different about Night March is that there's 4 Mad Party Pokemon, whereas there was only 3 Night Marching Pokemon. So you have the potential to get 16 Mad Parties, obviously 1 attacking, 15 in the discard pile. So you can be doing a lot of damage. I mean, you can be doing 300 damage with Mad Party. So the potential is there, but Mr. Rime is not going to be the one you're attacking with. It's never going to be on your board. So yeah, this one itself gets a 1. Mad Party as a whole, well, maybe we'll talk about that once we get to the Mad Party attackers. All right, SUICUNE. This thing is a holo rare, I think, and it's really terrible. 120 HP, Wave Splash, 1 energy for 20, Aura Loop, 130 for 2 water and a colorless. Put 2 water energies attached to this Pokemon into your hand. Yeah, it's just really bad.
It's a really pretty card.
It looks great.
I will say, it's a really pretty card, but no, it's really bad.
Yeah. Really bad. That's definitely a 1. All right, Milotic. I was actually kind of interested with Milotic. The art is great on this one, too. We got 120 HP, the ability Bright Heal. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon, and then Surf for a water and 2 colorless. Yeah, like on the face of this card, the ability seems like pretty decent. And like in a limited environment, it definitely is pretty decent. But I think beyond that, it's not enough healing. Because in this format, like a lot of time, like we see all these Pokemon that require you to have damage on your bench, and we keep talking about like how you have to specifically play cards that put damage on your bench, because most of the time you don't have more than 1 Pokemon that has damage on it. Like your active's either getting 2-shotted or it's getting 1-shotted. So healing is really not going to do a whole lot. And like I think just in DDV is just better healing, even though it only heals 20 off your active. Like it's a basic. And you usually only have to heal your active anyway. So I'm going to give this card a 1, even though I think it's kind of cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to give this card a 1 too. I mean, it's fine against like Weezing spread damage, but it's not really one of those cards you just play. You know, that's the thing. This would be kind of cool in some kind of like, you know, like janky boss monster deck where you're just kind of like healing. It kind of reminds me of what's that card? Like here's what you could do with this deck. So you could move damage from like Jinx or like Jinx around and then heal 20 damage. You know what I mean? Like you could do something. Yeah, you could do something like that. Like there'd be a way to make this card cool. Kind of like this is like a what is it? Kind of like Vileplume, like Vileplume GX from Cosmic Eclipse, kind of that way. Like you could move some damage around, kind of like do something kind of like cute with it. But I'm going to give it a 1 because it's just not really going to see play.
Yeah. As fun as that sounds, it doesn't sound like it would be good.
No.
Cool. So now we're going into Relicanth. I had to put Relicanth on here just because, that first attack for 1 colorless fossil search your deck for up to 2 rare fossil cards. Put them onto your bench. That's pretty good in like a limited environment if you end up going with the fossils. So, and I know that in the evolutions packs for the build and battle boxes, there are some fossil cards in there. So I actually think Relicanth is a really good card to play if you end up going with that strategy. In standard, like I don't think you're gonna see this played even in like if you were gonna use the fossil cards, you probably still wouldn't play Relicanth. But I had to put it in here just because for limited, it is a great way to get your fossil cards out and do that. So I had to put it in here. Winter, do you have anything else to say about this card?
Here's the thing. Like, I think this card may get better down the road depending on if we get more fossil cards. Our fossil cards are really bad. They're just
spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, right. And so here's the thing. So to be able to attack with this on your first turn, you have to go second. So you're going second. You're attacking with this. You're getting the 2 fossils. Then the next turn you're going to evolve, and then this card just really like even like the power of getting those 2 is really good. But okay, so this attack is kind of like Pokemon Research Lab, which with unidentified fossils. So with that card, you can play it on your turn 1. Turn 1 going first, get 2 fossils, end the turn, and then be ready to potentially attack next turn because you can evolve. Yeah. This lets you wait until your first turn going second.
Right.
So you're already behind by having to use this attack. This Pokemon obviously would get knocked out, and then you just have these 2 fossils that you may evolve and may it's just slow. It's just slow, but it could get better. It could get better if maybe we get a fossil deck or just better evolutions from the rare fossil. Let's see what comes,
Right. I will say it does have 90 HP, which means potentially you could be surviving a turn with this. I don't know if that's what you want. You might want Relicanth to get knocked out so that you can put what you actually want in the active. But 90 HP is that's decent. So depending upon how your opponent's first turn goes, this might stick around. I don't know.
Yeah, and if it gets knocked out, you could Rosa too.
That's true. Yeah, trying to get a Rosa thing going with the fossils. Yeah. So I mean, we just kind of explained. Right now, it's not good, but maybe in the future, we'll see.
I personally, I'd like to see it get good because I really like those. I'm a big fan of fossil decks. So
yeah, I think that would be really cool too. All right, moving to the next one, we got another Galarian Darmanitan. This is just the regular version of it. So 140. Is this a holo rare? Do you know? I think it might be.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure.
I feel like I've seen this card in foil. But anyway, so it's metal weakness, 3 energy, retreat cost. So for 1 water and 2 colorless, you got Blizzard for 80. This also does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And then 2 water, 2 colorless, crushing headbutt, 170 during your next turn. This Pokemon can't use this. I mean, this just seems so bad. I hate when they make you not be able to use attacks that aren't good to begin with. Crushing headbutt during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use it. It's who cares? The attack's bad anyway. So, yeah, this is really terrible. I give it a 1. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, why do I think it's cool though? That's the thing. I don't know.
Well,
I think
the spreading. It's 80, the spread.
Yeah, the spreading is kind of cool, but it's just not good. That's the thing. It's just not good. There's just such better basic Pokemon. I mean, in the grand scheme of Pokemon, I'm comparing this to Kyurem from Dragon's Majesty, where it had Glaciate for the same exact attack cost. Mm-hmm. But it does 30, but then it does 30 each bench Pokemon your opponent controls. And actually each Pokemon. So that's just so much better. And I'm in my head, I'm okay, 80, 10, whatever, but no, it's just bad. I'm just gonna give it a 1. I'm not gonna go into it anymore.
Yeah. They're really trying to make the ice spread deck in Pokemon. They keep coming out with cards like this, but if they want that to be an archetype, they're gonna have to print better cards.
Yeah.
So All right, we got VANILLUXE. Now, this is a card that I've actually heard a lot of people talking about. So, the ability, Bitter Cold. Once during your turn, if this is in the active spot, you may flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active is paralyzed. So, and then we have Water and Colorless Frost Smash for 90. Obviously, the strategy with this card is to play a lot of switching options and paralyze your opponent every turn in some way. The problem is that because the Paralyze is on an ability, there's no way to reflip that coin, so only 50% of the time it's going to work. Plus, it's a stage 2 that you have to commit a lot of resources in your deck to play. I have heard people talk about it. It is cool on the face of it, but I don't think it's going to see any play, and I think it's bad. What do you think, Winter?
Yep, it's bad. I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's easy enough.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I know. I wish Glimwood Tangle kind of was like any, like, you know, like you could flip like it didn't have to be an attack. Like you could do it for like abilities too, and like that
Right.
that it might something might be said for that, but nah, it's bad.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. I do kind of wish it was good because the thought of it, you know, the thought of it is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
And I will say that Will does make this a heads. So I actually had to check. Will does make this a heads. So Will essentially becomes paralyze your opponent, which is not bad. But again, that's so many resources in your deck to make this work. So I don't know that you're not gonna want to be doing that. So cool. All right, well, let's look at BEARTIC. BEARTIC has 140 HP for two colorless. It does slash for 40. And for a water and 2 colorless, it does Frozen Slice 150. This does 50 damage to itself. I do think this is slightly better as a stage 1, actually, because it can hit for 150, and it can hit for 150 the turn it evolves. So that's better math, because if you look at that, all right, you're going to 2-shot, and you're going to be doing 300, which you could potentially scale up. So this is closer to what we need for stage 1 attackers. It doesn't get there for sure. It doesn't get there. Like, it's still a bad card, but as I was like typing this out and looking at all these cards, I was like, well, BEARTIC is closer to what we need. So what do you think, Winter?
Yeah, I mean 150 for 3 is good, but I don't see any application for playing this card outside of like a limited format.
Yeah, I agree. So definitely 1s all around. But
yeah.
I don't know why they thought they needed to give it a downside with the 150. Like, that's where stage 1s need to be. But oh well.
Yeah.
All right, so I had to put Wishiwashi in here for limited, just because for 1 colorless, you shuffle your hand in your deck, draw 8 cards. That's like super good for limited. So if you see this card at all while you're playing in a limited format, you definitely need to take it. I would argue that this is probably better to take than most rares in a limited environment. So, yeah, super good. So I don't really think we need to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, draw is pretty amazing in limited. It's kind of what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah, for 1 energy, super good. Super good. All right, TOXAPEX. I love the art on this card. It's so good, though. What are you talking about? You don't like TOXAPEX? Yeah, this card's so bad.
I feel bad for TOXAPEX because TOXAPEX always is just always bad.
I know. It really is. I don't understand what their deal is. Like, print good TOXAPEX cards. It's been, how many TOXAPEXs have we had? Like 5, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah,
and they're all bad.
They're all bad. Like that TOXAPEX GX deck in quotations was definitely a meme. But it just was bad. It just was bad. And like I feel bad because I actually think TOXAPEX is like a cool design. It's a cool Pokemon, but they're just always bad. Like, I'm just gonna give this like a 0.
Yeah, it's like a negative score. It's bad. Oh gosh.
3 retreat, 130, 80 for 3.
Oh, it's so bad.
Recover. Like I mean, like what? Oh man, you know what? I'll just give it a little TOXAPEX. In TOXAPEX, you're great. You're a cool Pokemon, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, DRACOVISH. So we talked about fossil Pokemon. Let's actually take a look at what these rare fossils evolve into. Even if we don't like them, it's important to know what they are. So this one has an ability. It's 150 HP 3 retreat, lightning weakness, ability primal law. As long as this is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their Pokemon. And then for water and 2 colorless, you got hammer in for 120. Winter, you already said you don't really like these fossil cards. Give us some reasons why you don't like this card.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So at first glance, before I read the card, because I tend to get all hyped up. So Primal Law, I was like, oh my goodness, Archeops is back. This is a big deal right now. And then I look at it because I'm like, wait, they wouldn't. Hold on a sec. Your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their Pokemon, but as long as this Pokemon is in the active. Yeah. And this is DRACOVISH is just a bad Pokemon. So I give this a 1. I mean, it's definitely really cool, and like we do see a lot of evolution in this. There's a lot of evolution coming into this format, and I like it. I mean, I really like playing with the one prize, like evolution Pokemon. But this does also stop VMAXs, so evolution Pokemon. So that's something to be said. But the real thing is this has to be in the active, and that's. Like and one 150 is okay for a stage 1. That's like okay, that's pretty good. But this is gonna get knocked out, and you're just like, wow, I just wasted, I just wasted my active. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the realism with this card. I don't think this card is gonna see play in any competitive spectrum.
Yeah. And that's I'm right there with you. Like I think this is a 1, but I have heard people talk about this card, so let me just like explain what this deck would look like if you did try to make it work, right? So we got DRACOVISH. We're gonna try to play it maybe with other Pokemon, but we're gonna play a heavy scoop of nuts to make sure that DRACOVISH is the only Pokemon on the field. Because we really want to go after making this ability work. So we're gonna try to get DRACOVISH as the only Pokemon on the field. But if you look at the energy attachments, you got a problem. And the damage output for that matter. So first of all, we're always wanting a 2-shot with these types of Pokemon, but we're only hitting 240. So 240 will get a lot of Vs, which is true, but it's not going to get your Pokemon GX, your tag team, stuff like that. You're just going to get like stomped by that. So 150 HP, you're going to get one-shotted a lot of the time. I will say, if you're forcing your opponent to play with their Vs instead of their VMAXs, a lot of Vs actually can't one-shot for 150. So that is a bonus. So I see that how like the math could sort of work out there if you're strictly playing against a VMAX deck. But here's the problem is the energy attachment. So first turn you get 2 rare fossils down, right? You attach a water to one of them. Cool. DRACOVISH evolves on your next turn. You put a twin energy, you're ready to attack. The problem is that your other rare fossil has 0 energy on it. So when DRACOVISH gets knocked out, now, the next DRACOVISH isn't ready to attack. So you got to start like mucking around with your turbo patches, and yeah, it's just it's not reliable enough to be attacking every turn, which is what you'd have to do for this to even be considered for a competitive deck. So I'm gonna give it a 1 as well. So, but let's take a look at our next fossil Pokemon. Maybe it's better. We got Arctovish. Arctovish has for a water 2 colorless hard face 90. During your opponent's next turn, this takes 60 less damage from attacks. And for 1 water, 3 colorless, you got Cold Breath, 130. Your opponent's active is now asleep. Winter, what do you think about this one? Is this any better?
Oh, it's the worst one.
Yeah, it's really bad. Do we even really need to like expound?
No. I'm not really a fan. I've never been a fan of the whole like this Pokemon takes X less damage. I've just never liked that. It takes 3 for 90, Cold Breath 130 for 4. I mean, no, this card is just bad. I'm sorry. It looks like a cool Pokemon. That's the thing. Nothing against the Pokemon. Not at all. It's just this card they just printed, they just made it really bad.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like anything that takes X less, unless it's on a metal Pokemon, is like not viable to me.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. Sorry, Arctovish. All right, moving into our lightning stuff. Ampharos is actually one of my favorite Pokemon. I like Ampharos a lot. When I first was getting into the game, I had an Ampharos starter deck and a Talonflame starter deck and a Luxray starter deck. So those 3 Pokemon have like special places in my heart when it comes to the TCG.
Agreed.
However, Ampharos is, I don't know, not the greatest. 150 HP is, I guess, okay for a stage 2. It's not amazing. And then 1 lightning, Dazzle Blast 50, your opponent's active is confused, and 2 lightning, Electric Ball for 130. This is, again, like, it's a stage 2. Like, don't give me cheap attacks that don't do a lot of damage. Because, like, Dazzle Blast is fine for 1 energy, like 50, your opponent's active is confused. But on a stage 2, I don't need a 1 energy attack because I took at least 2 turns to get this thing set up. So that's why I don't like Ampharos. What do you think, Winter?
So no, definitely a 1. But 2 energy, like Electro Ball, like I'm thinking about limited here, like, that's not like 130 for 2 is not really that bad. I mean, if you're playing this in your like pre-release deck, and you attach some Reap. I don't think there's rare candy. Is there rare candy in the pre-release kits in the build and battle kits?
There might be like 1 if you get the Hydreigon.
Oh yeah, the Hydreigon. Okay, because I was gonna say, like, like potentially on like your turn, if you go first turn 2, you could be doing 130. That's pretty strong. But no, it's in a constructed format, this card is terrible. But shout out to Ampharos. Ampharos is one of my favorite Pokemon too.
Yeah, I love Ampharos. All right, next we got Manectric, and I thought we were getting the good Manectric in this, and I was sorely mistaken. So for 1 lightning, you got Stray for 30. You may switch this Pokemon with a bench Pokemon. I do always like that attack. And then 2 lightning and a colorless Flash Impact. 150, this does 30 to 1 of your benched Pokemon. I mean, 150 is not bad. It's possible to get this rolling as soon as it attacks because you have Tapu Koko, Prism Star. So 150 is not terrible. Doing 30 to 1 of your bench doesn't really matter in a non-GX deck. So I could see Manectric being okay, but I'm still going to give it a 1. But I definitely see like the viability of that second attack. And like I said, Strafe is a totally fine attack. I don't mind Strafe at all for 1. But again, I don't like 1 energy attacks on evolution Pokemon because I don't need 1 energy attacks on evolution Pokemon. So yeah, what do you think, Winter?
I'm going to give it a 1.5.
1.5. I like that too. I'm going to steal that 1.5.
Yeah, because I think it's in one territory, but like it's not a terrible card. You know what I mean? Like 150 for 3 is pretty good. I think the issue is getting the energy on it in like a timely fashion. Like, I mean, are you going to waste your Boltund attack to get, you know what I mean? Are you going to, I mean, we don't have Thunder Mountain anymore. So like, you're not going to, I mean, do you peak, you play some Peak Rom? Of course not. You know what I mean? So like, how are you going to get the energy, like, onto it? But I think the attacks and like, just everything about it, I think 110 is kind of low for a stage 1.
Yeah.
It's got 1 retreat. I mean, it's not a completely terrible card. So I want to give it a 1.5.
All right. Sounds good to me, man. All right, going to the next one, we got Vikavolt V. This is probably one of the most hyped cards coming out of this set. For some people, it is the most hyped card coming out of this set. We got a 210 HP on a basic with 3 retreat costs, fighting weakness. For a lightning and a colorless, you got Paralyzing Bolt, 50 damage during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any item cards from their hand. And 2 lightning and a colorless, Super Zap Cannon, 190, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Winter, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, this card's awesome. It's it has been hyped. I mean, this brings me back to Seismitoad. You know what I mean? Where it item locks. I mean, 190 for 3 is really strong. You discard 2 energy, but you have ways to get it back. So the only thing I don't understand about this card is the fact that it has 3 retreat. That just seems like a lot for a little tiny bug that flies.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only thing. And unfortunately, this card does miss out on a lot of the lightning goodies. I mean, this card would be absolutely broken if we had, Electro Power, Thunder Mountain. It misses out on a lot of those.
Yeah.
But I think this card's really good. I would give this a 4 personally. I think I don't give it a 5 only because that's a very bulky retreat cost. And discarding 2 energies is a little bit of a drawback. I understand 190 is really good, and I'm definitely about this card. I think the card is great, but I'm going to give it a 4. I don't think it's perfect.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't want to give this card a 5 just because I think my big thing with this card is fighting weakness. Fighting Pokemon are looking pretty good after this set, just because I mean we have some decent lightning cards already. We have some decent colorless cards already, but we're getting tons and tons of dark Pokemon. So people are going to start playing fighting decks, which I'm excited about because, like, fighting is another one of those neglected types. So so I'm excited for that, but like Vikavolt just gets like totally owned by fighting decks because they don't even like need their items. Like they could just raw attach because they have big HPs generally. So so I think that's why I don't like giving Vikavolt a 5, but like like it's like a high for it. It's like even maybe a 4.5 for me as well. Super Zap Cannon, like 190 is really high output for a V. There's not a lot of Vs that can hit that. And we do have speed lightning energy when we're playing lightning decks, which helps us to draw. I mean, I think the way that you play this now, there was some attacking variants in Japan. They were doing very well, obviously with Electro Power, Thunder Mountain, all that stuff. I think now you just play this like pure control. You know, you're playing 4 Crushing Hammer. You might even be playing Yell Grunts. Like then you play, you know, just like some drawing aids. And you just go for it and try to stop your opponent from doing literally anything and actually take knockouts hitting 50 damage a turn. I think that's the way that you play this card. And then like in a pinch, you Super Zap Cannon.
Right.
So
yeah, I would say so too. I think too, like one thing to think about with that 2 energy drawback is we do have Tapu Koko Prism Star.
right.
You know, which is really cool. We do also have access to Bolton. With its you know, with its first attack lets you get the 2 energies, and we also have a very underutilized tool, Energy Switch. You know, like like Energy Switch is a great tool if you're amassing some spare energy in your bench, and you can just move that right over your Vikavolt if you need to do that 190 attack. You know, it's not hard to do so. Like let's say you item lock, and now you're moving for the knockout, and you want to do a kind of like okay, this is the end of game. You know, the end game here. You 190. You know what I mean? You can just move the energy around. So. I think it's a 4. I think it's a solid 4.
Yeah, and you do have Turbo Patch too.
Turbo Patch, yeah, exactly.
Because there's no VMax for this, so yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, Tapu Koko, one of my favorite Tapu, my favorite Island Guardian. This card's really bad though. It's fine and limited because you can draw 2 cards just for fun. 110 is like okay for a big basic. This is actually a holo rare in this set. So yeah, it's really bad though. It's definitely a 1 for me.
I'm not gonna give it a 0 because the art is cool. So I'm gonna give it.
Yeah, the art's dope on this card. Plus, Tapu Koko is one of my favorites from Sun and Moon. So, all right, let's take a look at Toxtricity. All right, I'm gonna steal the thunder on this one because I actually really like Toxtricity. So Toxtricity's got 120. You like him too?
Dude, I love this card. I love this card.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you like this card because I was afraid you weren't gonna like it.
No, dude, I actually love this card so much. But dude, take the reins on it.
All right, yeah. Let me read it. All right, so we got 120 HP, stage 1, fighting weakness, 2 retreat cost. The first attack for 2 colorless, risk taker. Flip a coin. If heads, discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. If tails, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. Then for 2 lightning and a colorless, Thunder Jolt, 160. This does 30 damage to itself. So like. I'm sort of thinking that this might be the reason Belelba Bryson Man got banned in Standard. Because I was a little confused as to why Belelba and Bryson Man got banned because we're losing Orangurus. Like, mill decks take a huge hit. But, like, this thing mills so fast with Risk Taker. Like, it's crazy how fast this thing will mill you. And we have Glimwood Tangle. So, basically, 75% of the time, you're going to be discarding your opponent's deck. And 25% of the time, you'll be discarding your own deck, I guess. So, but that's not that bad. Like, 75 to 25 is really, really good. And you could have good games where you, like, never flip tails. But, yeah, I think this is amazing. I think this is the mill card moving forward. Like, this is going to be the mill deck. It attacks for 1 attachment, because you can just attach a twin energy and go for it. So you can be chaining Toxtricities if you need to, but again, I think you're playing like straight up mill here, and you're just like trying to make sure that your opponent can't do anything. So you're playing that, you know, Crushing Hammer, you're playing Yell Grunt, you're playing other things that may hamper your opponent, like Chaotic Swell and things like that. So, or you're probably not playing Chaotic Swell because you probably want Glimwood Tangle, but yeah, I think this card is really, really, really good. So that's where I'm at. Like, it's not a 5 because like mill is hard and there's, you know, things have to be in the right situation for mill to succeed. But I do really like this card. What do you think, Winter?
I'm giving it a 2. I love this card. I mean, it's absolutely a build around. Like this card is not meant for any other deck than its own, and it's not what I would call a good card, but I think it's like, I just love this card. Like I was able to pull one in one of my boxes, and and I was like, this card I need to play.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 2. I think it's really cool. It sees no other application outside of a deck of its own, but I am very excited about this card.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just scale up just a little bit to 3. Like I said, Mill is cool, but things have to be in the right position for Mill to be good in the meta. So, and we did just lose Blow Bryson, man, which obviously, Mill decks as a whole are gonna be missing. So I think we got to kind of wait to see how the meta shapes up, but this is definitely something I'm going to try to make work, because I'm a fan of Mill, and I think it's going to be cool. So I'm going to give it 3. All right, moving on to Pincurchin, 80 damage. This thing is a holo rare, I believe. So for a lightning, double draw 2, and then for a lightning and 2 colorless, Zing Zap for 50. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active is now paralyzed. Anything that says flip a coin if heads, your opponent's active is now paralyzed is going to be good with Glimwood Tangle in Limited, but I don't think this thing sees any play outside of that. What do you think?
So Pincurchin is Pincurchin is really bad. I think the little guy doesn't get enough credit because he's very cute. I do want a plushie of him, but unfortunately this card is really bad. Something could be said for its application in Limited, to use double draw, and I just don't know. I mean, even the fact that like 3 energy does 50 and doesn't outright paralyze is just terrible. And it has a 2 energy retreat cost. Like, it's just like, dude, you're so cute, but like, you're gonna get a good card one day.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
man. That's where I'm at too. So next up, we got another fossil card. This is Dracozolt. It has 160 HP, 4 retreat, fighting weakness. For 1 lightning, amping up does 30, and during your next turn, this Pokemon's amping up attack does 90 more damage. And then for 4 colorless, you got Giga Impact for 200, and then during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Winter, talk to us about why you don't like this card.
What's up with their like Transformer, like, or like not Transformer? What's the word I'm looking for? Like these modular Pokemon.
Yeah, it's
like
really weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's kind of cool, whatever. But no, this card's really bad. This card's probably the second worst one. I think Arctovish is definitely the worst. I think this is number 2.
Yep, I think this one's pretty bad.
Gonna give it a 1.
Yeah, giving it a 1 myself as well. Moving on to another one. Here is Arctozolt, 130 HP. This is the one that people think might be okay. So 2 retreat costs, fighting, the ability Biting Whirlpool. Whenever your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Then for a lightning and a colorless, you Electro Ball for 70. But this is really a bench sitter. You're not going to want to ever have this in the active attacking. But, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, if you get... There's no way you're going to get 4 of these out. But let's say you get 3 of them out, right? Every time they attach an energy, they're taking 60 damage. So that's not that terrible. Like, that's a decent bit of damage for attaching energy. And, of course, like... The name of the game right now is Energy Acceleration. Now, I do have to point out that they have to be attaching the energy card from their hand. So, like, Welder would count, so they would take a lot if they were to Welder. And then, like, Fade would count. Other than that, not a lot of stuff would count. Because, like, Turbo Patch comes from the discard pile, Metal Saucer comes from the discard pile. So, I think it's okay, but I don't think it's going to see a lot of play. Like, I actually think somebody's going to try to make it work, but I don't know that it's possible to make it work. What do you think, Winter?
So I think it's cool. I mean, it's definitely the best fossil Pokemon we have. But I look at like Hydreigon and like you said, Welder. Weavile doesn't count because that's from one dark Pokemon to another. But
right.
When you're attaching a lot of energy and you're kind of moving that around, like Welder basically punishes 60 HP, like 60 damage,
right.
I mean, incrementally, I mean, you have to be, it's kind of like a weird, like reverse spread deck. Like you're not attacking to do the spread damage. You're letting the opponent do their spread damage. So the opponent now has to think, all right, do I want to take that? Do I want to make that sacrifice? And like, what
Right.
deck are you playing this in? Like, are you doing it in like this would be kind of cool in like a spread deck, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, or something along those lines. You play like Spike Myth maybe, if they're like moving stuff around with like the high energy, you know what I mean? Because they get free retreat. So now if they're moving, like, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely going to be some sort of like unique spread damage deck with this built around. I think this card is really cool. I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah.
It may even be like a 3-worthy card. I just don't really see where it's going to be at, because playing this in a deck, like now to like hopefully deal with like some of the dark acceleration, or just like the fire and dark pretty much are the big accelerators right now. Is it worth playing as a tech for those decks right now?
Right.
Like, no, it's not. But
No,
I think
yeah.
the ability's strong. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
I'm going to give it a 2 as well. I definitely don't think this is a teching card. I think you have to build around this card if you want to make it work. And that makes it a lot worse, because it's only going to be good really for one deck. I mean, I think you could maybe play it with like Sableye or something, play it with some goons or whatever. But yeah, I think it could be interesting. But I definitely don't think it's good enough to go past a 2. So that's where I'm going to sit. All right, moving into our Psychic Pokemon, we got Wigglytuff. Immediately, I would like you guys to press F on your keyboards, because, we're missing our fairy types here. Wigglytuff is one of my favorite Pokemon, like, period. So I'm excited to see this Wigglytuff. I'm also excited to see what its first attack does. So Sleep Pulse for 30 guarantees sleep, which is pretty cool. And then 3 colorless Double Smash, 90x, flip 2 coins. This attack does 90 damage for each heads. So, yeah, I mean, Sleep Pulse is cool, very on theme for Wigglytuff. I don't think the card is that good, though. I'm going to give it a 1, even though I love Wigglytuff. Winter, would you do anything different there?
I'll be generous and give it a 1.
Awesome. Just because it's cute, right?
Yeah, just because it's Wigglytuff. Listen, Wigglytuff is cool. Wigglytuff is cool. We have not really seen a good Wigglytuff since the original Wigglytuff.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Which
Maybe
is
the
sad.
Wigglytuff from Skyridge. The
Maybe.
Wigglytuff from like the e-reader block was awesome.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, Wigglytuff is just not good ever since Do the Wave. That was its one moment to shine.
It's one moment, yeah. So play some Eternal formats, play Wigglytuff. Don't play this one.
Yeah.
All right, we got Mew V here. 180 HP, which is like kind of low for Vs. Fighting resistance, which is good, but dark weakness, which is not good at all. X-Ball for 2 psychics. We got 30 times 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon, which is very on theme for Mew and Mewtwo alike. What do you think, Winter? What do you think about this card?
I think it's bad. It's sad to see a Mew that is bad, because Mew has typically had like the it's got that like kind of like it's a transformative Pokemon. So it's got that whole like versatile ability, and then you can use attacks from Pokemon in your discard pile. So like Mew has typically had some really good cards. This is just not good. I mean, X-Ball is super vanilla, and that's all it has.
Right.
I mean, something could be said for like you're playing this against like a welder deck, like CENTISKORCH or something like that. A card that's really accelerating energy. Even dark Pokemon, but a lot of them have psychic resistance, so that hurts you. So I don't think this card's very good. I mean, free retreat now, that's something that's not bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
180 is low for HP too. I mean, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna go right in the middle of 1 and 2, just because that's free retreat and the attack could potentially work in your favor. But I mean, like, okay, let's say your opponent CENTISKORCH has like 6 fire energy, like, and you've got the 2. You're not knocking it out. That's the thing. Like, you're not really like okay, even like on a V. You know what I mean? Like, your opponent's V would need to have like 5 energy on it to knock it out. It's just not. It's not realistic. So I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I think the free retreat is definitely something that helps this card. But it's just not good. It's just bad. This is like probably the worst Mew like ever printed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm gonna give this thing a 1. I don't think it's gonna see any play. It even looks like the card design even makes it look like it was supposed to have an ability or something, and somebody like messed up and didn't give it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it. I'm gonna give it a 1. So
and you know what's the hilarious part too is like I sell cards on eBay and I sold both of these very quickly for like $7 a piece.
that's pretty good.
So yeah, and very quickly they were like some of the first to sell. So
Right.
I mean, maybe from a collector standpoint, maybe people are looking at it from, but you get the full art before you get the regular. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get that. Well, I like Mew, but not this card.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm the same.
All right, another press F opportunity here with Grand Bull. 130 HP, stage 1, 2 retreat, metal weakness. For a Psychic and a Colorless, you got Jaw Lock for 50, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. And then 2 Psychic and a Colorless, Headbutt Bounce for 130. This is really bad. This is like a 0 for me. What do you think, Winter?
Yep. I give it the lowest possible score, which is, I mean, supposedly 1, but sometimes you gotta just leave a 0.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Lunatone. I had to put Lunatone in here because this is like the best card for limited in the set. So for 1 colorless, you've got Future Sight. Look at the top 4 cards of either player's deck and put them back in any order. I will say Wishiwashi might be better than this, but like Lunatone is really cool for limited. Like if I play limited, I'm specifically going to be looking for Lunatones. So yeah, that's why I put it in here. What do you think, Winter?
So I think this card gets a little bit better when you have Soul Rock because the Soul Rock lets you not factor in resistance on your opponent's Pokemon. So this Psychic now, and I'm not saying this is definitely a 1 for me, but I think what's kind of cool is like Dark is very oppressive in this or is going to be in this meta, and you have Dark being in both pre-release format and in construct. Now you play as constructed, but like this lets you, while Dark ramps, you get to do more damage, and you don't have to worry about the drawback of the resistance if you play the Soul Rock.
Right.
So just kind of interesting to know, but I'm still going to give it a 1.
Yeah, same. But I like it for limited a lot.
And I love the art. The art is I love this kind of Pokemon art, that kind of like painting type look. I love the art.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Really cool. Really cool. All right, so now we got Gothitelle, another stage 2 line here. Got 140 HP, 2 retreat, dark weakness, fighting resistance. For 1 Psychic, we got Mind Bend. For 40, your opponent's active is now confused. And for a Psychic and a colorless, we got Bend, 90. Choose 2 random cards from your opponent's hand. Your opponent reveals those cards and shuffles them into their deck. It's worth noting that Bend is actually the same kind of attack that Trevnoir had, which is really good in Expanded. It wasn't as good in Limited, but yeah. So I like that about it. Winter, what do you think about this card?
I don't see any application for it, honestly. It's a pretty bad stage 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, it looks okay, but it's got that same problem that I talked about before, where like its attacks are cheap, they don't do a lot of damage, and it's a stage 2, so I don't really need cheap attacks on a stage 2. So, yeah. Sweet.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you've built up your boss monster, it's got to be a boss monster.
Right. Yeah, I
totally get it. Yeah.
Sweet. So let's move on to our next one. We got another Psychic card here with Golurk. Golurk is, my favorite thing about Golurk is that it literally has an attack called Golurk Hammer. Like that's just amazing. I love that it has its own thing, but it's so expensive that I think this card is pretty much unplayable.
Yeah, it's unplayable.
Yeah, so pretty cool. I mean, maybe in like Pokemaniac, I don't know. You could play this card with Steelix and Pokemaniac if you want. Not that deck has been any good, but
oh yeah, you could do that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it would just be fun. But you wouldn't even play Golett. You would literally just play the Golurk just to flex it. So yeah, definitely ones all around in there. Okay, we got Dedenne. So here's my question for you, Winter. Is this card worthy of being a Dude Dene? Give it to me.
This card is worthy of being a Dude Dene.
Okay.
This card is worthy of being a Dude Dene. So this card is a 1, because it has kind of like, it's not as bad as Mr. Rhyme, because it's a basic, but you're not going to play the Psychic Energy. To use the Mad Party, you're just literally going to make this discard fodder to fuel the Mad Party engine for the Pokemon that is going to be attacking. So this is definitely a Dudene. I love the art. It's Dudene.
Yeah, it's a Dudene. Okay, well that says it all. I mean, the card as a whole, like in standard, is definitely a 1. You're not going to actually ever like attack with this, but it's as good as Mad Party is good. So, and like I said, I guess we'll talk more about that because the other 2 Mad Party Pokemon are the ones that are generally the ones you'll be attacking with. So, let's go ahead and move to our next one. Then we've got Shiinotic here. For 110, I really like the flavor of this card a lot. So 2 retreat costs, metal weakness, flickering light, 1 colorless, does 30 damage, flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can't attack. And for a psychic and a colorless, Fear of the Forest, 60 plus if Glimwood Tangle is in play. This does 60 more damage. I do really like the flavor of this card. I don't think that it's playable, even though I think Glimwood Tangle is really good. Winter, would you agree with that?
I actually want to build this deck.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, no, it's definitely a 1. But Flickering Light, I don't know, like having your opponent's turn, the defending Pokemon can't attack. So even if they switch out, no matter what they do, it can't attack. So you kind of are. But like, what's the end game? You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like you're stalling. But what are you stalling for?
Well, if they switch it out, the new Pokemon can attack because the effects of Flickering Light are on the new Pokemon.
Oh, yeah, that is true too. Yes.
Yeah, so they would just have to switch out of it.
Got it. Yes. Okay. Yes, that's true. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because so I think that's like that kind of sucks about it because like the new defending Pokemon wasn't the defending Pokemon when you attacked, which is unfortunate. If it was that, dude, that would be awesome. That would be such a good control deck.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be insane. I think this card is bad. I think it's bad.
yeah. I think it was like like you were saying, like it's cool, but like it's still a 1, even though it's cool. I love the flavor of it. That like you can have Glimwood Tangle in play, and then like I really like that, but I don't think it's definitely a 1. So. All right, moving into Mimikyu. Mimikyu is one I'm really interested in. It's 70 HP. It's got an ability called Heal Jamming. Your opponent's bench Pokemon can't be healed. And then Claw Slash for a Psychic and a Colorless does 30. But that's really not the reason we're playing this. What do you think about this ability, Winter?
I love it. I give this card a 3. I think this card is awesome. It stops Malolana, which is it stops Malolana, stops Hyper Potion, your bench Pokemon, of course, but Hyper Potion, it would nullify, like any Milotic strategy. I just think we haven't really seen a card like this before, at least in recent something that does like a heal block. You know what I mean? So I think this card's really cool. I'm curious to see what kind of application this has also in the future as we move forward with heal. But I think just having this blanket, your opponent's bench Pokemon can't be healed, is pretty strong. I mean, I think like even if we don't necessarily have a heal engine right now where this stops. We do. We have Malolana. We have Hyper Potion. We have things. But like, I mean, what could this impact in the future? You know what I mean? Like this is like a first of its kind. I'm gonna give it a 3 just because like I can't really say this is bad. I mean, the ability is just so new and sort of relevant now.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. That's what I was going to say too, is 3 and really largely honing into that like uncertain spot, because this is as good as healing is in a format. And as we get further and further into VMax territory, I think healing is going to get better and better because we're going to move out of that one-shot format. And even now, we've already kind of talked about a lot of Pokemon that are really not aiming to one-shot. So I think that's kind of cool. I think that this card is definitely going to be relevant at some point. I'm not sure if now is the point that it's relevant, but I mean, I could see this being relevant even now. Like you said, Mao and Lana from Cosmic Eclipse, even though it's going to rotate in the next rotation next year, I think that card's going to see play until it rotates, and this just outright stops it. So Yeah, I'm a fan of this card. I do think we got to give it that 3 uncertain, just because it's hard to tell whether it's this is the right moment for it. But I think that there probably will come a time when there will be a moment for this card. So very sweet. All right, moving into Poltegeist. Dude, I will let you talk about this one. So why don't you read it for us and tell us what you think about it?
Absolutely. So I think this card is. So I built this deck and expanded. Michael knows that I've been a huge fan of this archetype ever since it came out. I have it built and expanded. But one thing that was interesting to me was because I tend to play more expanded decks. Is I don't really see the relevance in playing T-Break and expanded because you already have so many ways to fuel your discard pile using like Battle Compressor. Quick ball in a lot of cases. There's a lot of ways to use discard outlets.
Right.
But so I just thought T-Break was a little bit like over the top. Like I'd rather just cut out the Synesthetes to play more, just good stuff that helps fuel the deck's engine. Right. However, in standard, we don't have access to as many amazing discard outlets as we do in expanded. So T-Break is actually more relevant now. So you discard a Pokemon that has Mad Party attack from your hand in order to use this ability. So you're discarding, you're fueling that Mad Party. So you can discard a Mr. Rime or Dedenne, or even a duplicate Poltegeist. And you draw 2 cards. So you get some value off of it. This Mad Party is also for 2, which is really good. The drawback of Mr. Rime has a lot of drawbacks as a stage 1, but the drawback of Dedenne is that you need the psychic energy. Well, this lets you just play a twin energy and you just go to town. I mean, you got to evolve it, of course. You got to play Synesty down, turn 1, and then you have to evolve into this, so it's a little bit slower. But this is a great engine, and this is a great monster for when I keep saying monster. This is a great creature. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh! A great creature this is a great creature to kind of attack with when you have 2 primary attackers in the deck, and we're going to get to the next one, but this is one of them. When that attacker is done, you have this waiting in the works, and it does just for 2, you use a twin energy, and you're hitting for 20 times the amount. So yeah. And this card ideally is gonna hit for some big numbers if you're playing it later in the game. Over 200 ideally. So no, I think it's good. I'm going to give it a 2 only because it's super specialized for the deck. You're not going to play this in any other deck but Mad Party, but the ability is pretty strong. So I don't want to give it outright a 1. It's going to be an attacker. So I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Poltegeist is the only card that makes Mad Party maybe viable for standard. So, I think this might be a good place to talk about Mad Party as a whole. Give Mad Party as a whole a rating. So, for expanded, Mad Party is a 5. And Poltegeist doesn't necessarily help it in expanded for the reason that Winter already said. Mad Party is going to be really good in expanded. I definitely, have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be great in expanded. However, in standard, this Poltegeist is really the only thing that even makes it viable. And so I'm not totally sure what the number is for Mad Party and expanded. I think I kind of want to say 2.5 for Mad Party in standard, just because I like the deck. I think it's cool, but I think we don't have as many discard outlets like Winter was saying. So I can't give it really above a 3, but I know for sure people are going to play it because they like stuff like this. So I'm going to give it a 2.5. What do you think about Mad Party for standard, Winter?
I would probably give it a 2 or a 2.5. Because it's a really good fringe deck. That's the thing. It's a really good one prize fringe deck. Right. But is it really good or is it cool? That's the thing. Right. I find myself choosing between those 2 things all the time.
Yeah.
Is Mad Party a good deck or is it a cool deck?
Right. Well, it's definitely a cool deck.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool deck. But I mean, your max damage output, the most damage you can have by using Mad Party, I think is
300. Right?
I think it's 300. Yeah, because 15 you'd have to have the one, the one Bunnelby or the one, So
right.
Which is not really that great. But at the same time, if you're using it as you're picking off stuff, and then maybe they're taking a prize from you, but you're taking 2 or 3 prizes from them.
Right.
So yeah, I'd probably give it a 2. Between a 2, I'd give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2.5. 2.5 is a very good, right in the middle kind of score, So I'm gonna give it a 2.5, right in the middle there, and in the middle.
No, that's good. That's really good. All right, so let's move on to our fighting types. We got Doug Trio, who has a dig attack that actually makes sense for dig. So it's 90 HP, 1 fighting, dig for 30, flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. And then for a fighting and colorless, you got Mud Bomb. I mean, that is a good way to kind of like shield yourself and hit for weakness, kind of like maybe do a little stall thing with Dugtrio, but like I don't think it's going to see any play. So I'm going to give this thing a 1, but I do like it.
Yeah, you know what would be even better flavor if they gave it free retreat because it was digging underground.
Yup. I like that. I like that.
But no, it's really bad. We're gonna give it a 1.
Yup. All right, going into Tyranitar. So this is one that like I haven't heard anybody talk about this card, but I actually think this card's pretty cool. So we got a Stage 2 Tyranitar here for 180, and Bedrock Breaker 120. It's 1 fighting, 2 colorless. Discard a Stadium in play, which we've seen Tyranitar deal with things like that before. And then for 2 fighting, 2 colorless, we got Mountain Swing, 250. Discard the top 5 cards of your deck. So right off the bat, I got to mention the pre-evolution. Pupitar has an attack for 3 energy that does 40 damage and just immediately evolves into Tyranitar. So that's definitely worth mentioning. Just because 180 is like decent damage, I guess. So even if you have to like, if you're forced to do the Pupitar, you can get into Tyranitar right away. So that is sort of cool. I like this card because I feel like it hits for 250 and then 120, which is going to knock out everything. So, you know, 370. So if you can manage to attack twice with this thing, you're doing pretty good. Like, you're knocking everything out. But the other thing is it's fighting. And so, like, against, you know, against all the lightning decks, all the fighting decks, like, Mountain Swing will clear literally anything that you're weak to. And I like that. Like, I feel like as a Stage 2, like, if you're going to give a Stage 2 a damage output, 250 is where you should be. Like, I don't even think you need to discard the top 5 of your deck. But on the same token there, I don't think discarding the top 5 cards of your deck is that big of a downside with this card. So that's where I'm at. Winter, what do you think about this?
So I think this card is really powerful. I think it's kind of unfortunate that you have to attack with the Pupitar to evolve it because you leave it wide open.
Right.
But the good thing is that we really don't have a lot of grass Pokemon. So like,
right.
You know, like what's going to knock it out? You know what I mean? That's the thing. I mean, there are things that can knock it out that are not grass Pokemon, of course, because 180 is not a hard number to hit for big Pokemon.
Right.
But I mean, if you're like scenario here, so you go first, and you have Jirachi in the active, and say you have Jirachi in the active, Larvitar on the bench. You go first. You on your turn. Turn 2, you play Pupitar, triple acceleration energy. You switch. You scoop up net. The Jirachi. You put this in the active. Put down Tyranitar. You have a full turn to see what your opponent does. So
right.
But now you have to accelerate the energy. So do you turn 1? See, this is the issue. Is do you turn 1, put a fighting energy on Larvitar, and then you put triple acceleration energy on Pupitar, and the triple acceleration energy is going to come off, and then you have a whole other fighting energy to put on there after you attach the twin. So, right. But you can just do Bedrock Breaker first,
right?
And then you can do it after that. But is it really going to live that long? That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cool, but I think it needs to live long enough to be able to use that 250 attack. So I'm going to give it a 1. Personally, I'd like to give it a 2. I thought about it, but I think I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with a 2 just because I do like it. I mean, I will say I'm not saying that this is the greatest way to play this card at all. But Colossal this is probably the best Colossal pair that we've seen so far. And there is a nice secret rare Colossal in this set. I think that would be really interesting. I mean, you could play it really going after that with like a bunch of Rosas. Obviously 4 rare candies. Like, I think that could be kind of interesting. And then you discard the top 5 cards of your deck. Well, maybe you discarded energy there. So that's where I'm at. I'm not saying it's gonna like rise in the meta or anything, but I am saying that of the Stage 2s that we've seen, I think this is the one that's the most viable besides Decidueye. So yeah, I'm curious to see if maybe this could work in the future. So very cool. All right, so let's go to another Stage 2 that people have been talking about. This is Flygon. This one has not been flying under the radar like Tyranitar, as a lot of people have been talking about this one. It's got an ability, Labyrinth of Sand. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon cannot retreat. And then its attack for a fighting into colorless Desert Geyser does 130. If your opponent has a Stadium in play, discard it. If you discarded a Stadium, In this way, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. I think both the attack and the ability have promise, but I think they're just a small bit too underpowered, with needing to be in the active for the ability, and with the prevention, like not, relying on whether or not your opponent has a stadium in play. So as soon as you do it once, they're probably just not going to put a stadium in play. So I think the downsides of this card make it kind of like unplayable, but I like the idea of what's going on here. I just like they put downsides on these cards, and I heard somebody saying this in another video that I had watched about the set. They put downsides on all these stage 2s, like thinking that maybe their attacks are too powerful, their abilities are too good, and it's like they're really not. If you would just take the downsides out, you would actually just have like a regularly playable card instead of having something that's not playable. So what do you think about this, Wynter?
I think it's a 1. I don't have any card that relies on your opponent making a decision, or your opponent's game state, or like, your opponent's field in any game is bad. Anything that lets anything that's dependent on your opponent is just not a strategy you want to go with. That's one thing I was taught way back in the day of playing games, card games, and in Pokemon, Pokemon is not immune. This card is not really good. 130 for 3 is also kind of on the weekend. And I think the ability Labyrinth of Sand is kind of cool, but it's a stage 2. Like we've got Snorlax from the Black and White era that does the same thing, and it's a basic.
Right.
That's an expanded card, of course, but
right.
I don't think it's really that good. I mean, I actually like the Vibrava, the pre-evolved form, better than this.
Okay.
which is for 1 fighting. It has it's Sand Pulse. You deal 20 damage, and then this attack also does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon.
That's not bad.
Which is good for Scoop Up Block, which is good for Shadow Box. The Shadow Box Mimikyu. So like that to me is better than this stage 2 Flygon.
Right.
I mean, not that I would play either, but like I can see where the hype is with the card, because it's something that we don't have in standard right now and hasn't been featured for a little bit. But it's just bad. I mean, it's a 1.
Yeah, I agree. I'm at a 1 at this card too. So moving on to the next one, we got Solrock. We kind of already talked about this one, so we won't spend a ton of time. Wynter mentioned the ability that says if you got a Lunatone and this in play, your opponent's Pokemon in play have no resistance. Could be maybe like a cool tech against Dark for Psychic decks, but Rock Throw is 30. It's not really a good card, but it does have that synergy, so I'll give it a 1, but it's worth mentioning, right?
Yeah, I'll give it a 1 too. I mean, I actually like Solrock and Lunatone. The one thing I'll never understand is why Solrock is not a fire type.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, it does have rock in its name, but it should be at least like fire, right? Like fire and rock, or fire and ground, or whatever the type technically is with the games. But yeah,
but it's fine. I mean, I like them. I think they're cool.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving into Hippowdon. This is another one that I haven't heard people talking about, but that actually looks kind of viable. So Hippowdon is a stage 1, has 150 HP. For 2 fighting and a colorless, we got Triple Smash for 80 times. You flip 3 coins. This does 80 damage for each heads. And then 3 fighting and a colorless, Land Crush for 150. So this is another one that has the advantage of being a fighting type. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be talking about it. But its first attack that flips 3 coins. If you think like on average with Glimwood Tangle, you're going to be getting 2 heads out of that. So you're going to do 160 for 3 energies. Double 160, well, that's what, 320? Which is pretty good. You get a couple goons, you knock out every VMax with Hippowdon. That's dark. Your dark stuff. Or you 2-shot pretty much every VMAX, period. So at 150 HP, it's kind of high. You're probably going to survive a hit from a V. Not a VMAX, obviously. But you might be able to turn the prize race in your favor with this thing. I think it's kind of cool, so I'm going to give it like a 2 instead of just downvoting it like we do a lot with the other non-VMAX guys. What do you think about this, Wynter?
I don't know. Hippowdon's one of my least favorite Pokemon. I don't know why. I just whenever I see it, I'm like, ugh. No, I don't want to. You are right. You're right about the downvoting, but I got to give it a 1. I think the whole Glimwood Tangle interaction is really cool, and the upside 240 damage is really strong for 3, but I got to give it a 1.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's probably where most people are going to sit, but I think that we might actually see some of these fighting Pokemon like really actually be okay because of Dark. So I'm going to leave mine at a 2. Then we'll go to another fighting Pokemon here, Rhyperior V. 230 HP, Grass Weakness, 4 Retreat costs. For a fighting and 2 colorless, we got Drill Run. For 80, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, and a fighting and 3 colorless, Heavy Rock Artillery for 210 during your next turn. This can't use Heavy Rock Artillery. What do you think about this card, Winter?
Okay, so 230 HP is pretty good for a V. That's good. Drill Run 80. I'm just looking at I'm looking at the attacks again. 210's pretty good. No, yeah, I gotta give this a 1. I got a full art of this and it looks really cool, and I like Rhyperior as a Pokemon. I feel like they're failing fighting with this set. I don't know why. These are just not really good fighting cards, fighting type cards. But no, I gotta give it a 1. It's not that strong, and like, I mean, 210 for 4, and not being able to use it again, I don't think is that good.
Yeah, I think this card's really bad. I think this is probably the worst V in the set. Right down there with Mew, in my opinion. I'm going to give it a 1 as well.
Mm.
All right, well, we got Diggersby to cheer us up.
Oh, no.
All right, dude, we don't need to read it. It's just really bad.
Diggersby has the Toxapex curse.
Yeah, it really does.
They're just it's just always bad. It is interesting to see a fighting type Diggersby, because I think they're usually normal. They're all normal.
I want to say there's one other one from the XY block that's fighting, but yeah, they're usually normal. But I don't. I would have to confirm that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's Diggersby. Okay, so Galarian Surfetched. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this card because I actually looked. This is like a straight up reprint of the one from Rebel Clash, which is super interesting to me because Pokemon does not do this very often, where they'll just like straight up reprint a card. In fact, I can't think of a card that has been completely reprinted. It does have different art, so technically it's alternate art reprint, but yeah, I mean, I've seen cards get reprinted as a different type, but just straight up reprinted, whereas everything is the exact same except for the art. That's not something that Pokemon usually does. But if you want to hear more about this card, go check out our set review on Rebel Clash, which was the premiere of this card, because that's where we really get into it. But for now, I think we can just kind of point out that it's sort of cool that Pokemon did a straight reprint. Curious to see if that becomes something that they do more often.
It's not even a bad card. That's the thing.
Decent.
Like, you play this with Martial Arts Dojo, Karate Belt. I mean, like, you know, like it's not bad. You know, you play 4 switches. Like, I would say this is the best fighting type Pokemon we have in the set.
It's definitely up there. Like, I think it's good, and it's good against Dark. This might be the time for it, because we did talk about, you know, it being good but not great in the meta for Rebel Clash. So I think maybe this is where it shines. But like I said, if you want to hear more info about that, go check out our previous set review of Rebel Clash, where we kind of dive into this card a little bit more. But for now, let's go to our Dark types. We got Galarian Slowbro V. It has an ability, Rapid Fire Poison. Once during your turn, if this is in the active spot, you may make your opponent's active Pokemon poisoned. And then for 2 Dark and a colorless, you got Tripping Shot. 130 during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Winter, why don't you give me your thoughts on this one?
This card is awesome. This card's really good. Just being able to. I like that. I like that Galarian's, like, they made another Slowbro, or like they made another like Slowpoke evolution that it's got like a poison cannon. That's the shell's place this time.
It's so extreme.
Yeah, I know. I think it's really cool, but no, I think it's Rapid Fire Poison. Like, being able to have the ability, like, this in the active poison is really good. You're just like Hypnotoxic Laser, like, you know, one of the effects of Hypnotoxic Laser, just for having it in the active, so it turns on a lot of like poison, poison effects. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them usually are like underutilized. So, you know, hopefully this can help make a poison deck a little bit more viable. And even triple shot's not bad. You know, like 130 for 3. That's like a Heatran type attack.
Right.
You know, and then during next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Like, that's not a terrible ability. You know what I mean? So no, I'd actually gonna give this card a 4.
Oh wow, okay, cool. You know what my biggest problem with this card is that it has 3 retreat costs.
Yes.
So I have to, if I'm going for like poison decks, and I just want to use this as my poisoning agent, I can't just attach an air balloon or a U-turn board. I have to actually commit a switch card to this, and so I think that's Slowbro's biggest downfall. I'm not quite as hot on it as you are. I'll give it a 3 though, because I do think it's good. It does make me a little bit uncomfortable that Galarian Slowbro is so intense. Like, of all the Pokemon to make like super intense with this like cannon, Slowbro is just a little. It's just weird to me. But yeah, no, it's really cool card, really solid. I don't want to just rehash what Winter said. He did a good job. But I'm gonna give it a 3. So moving.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that too. I could definitely see the push for a 3, because that's one of my reasons for not giving it a 5.
Right.
Because the retreat is just so bad. But it has the makings of a good card. But yeah, it could go either way. It could be in that 3-4 range. I think is definitely where it is.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like you gotta play this, and then I gotta play CENTISKORCH VMax, and we see how we do the ones that we kind of like down.
Yeah.
Split up a little bit. We gotta kind of like prove them to each other, sort of, which I think is going to be really helpful in like testing and such. So, all right, so we got a new muck in this set, and it's dark type without having to be like a lowland. So now that poison types are being typed as dark, so we've got triple poison on it. For 1 dark energy, you get poisoned, and during Pokemon checkup, you put 3 instead of 1, just like triple poison always does. And then Sludge Whirlpool is like expensive and bad. But what do you think about triple poison's place in the meta? I know you were just talking about poison.
I think there's better ways to turn poison. I think muck is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think there's better. Like you could poison with Garbodor. You could poison with Galarian Slowbro. I just think it's. I think the card is just not really that good. I think it's trying to do badly what other cards are doing successfully.
Yep, I'm right there with you. It does have 4 retreat, so again, you could play it in Pokemaniac if you want to try, if you want to flex the muck. Yeah, I agree with you completely there.
And honestly, too, I think there's better ways. Like you could. I mean, I know you're going off type here, but look at. Drag Algae, you know what I mean? It's got that what is it? 1 psychic for if your opponent's active Pokemon is already poisoned, you put 10 damage counters instead of 1 between like Pokemon between turns. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's something along those lines. But I mean, like there's definitely like better ways to use stage 1s. I mean, you do have to go off type, which is unfortunate. But there are better ways to kind of accelerate that poison damage than just going like your Pokemon's, your opponent's the defending Pokemon is poison. Put 3 on there. I think it's too little, and I think we already have enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's go to Ariados then. Ariados is an interesting Pokemon. It's a stage 1, 110 HP. It has this ability Spider Net. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's benched evolution Pokemon with their active. And then for a dark and a colorless, Poison Sting does 30 and poison. This is an interesting card, but I think its ability saying that it only grabs evolution Pokemon is not good. And I think that might push it out of playability. I could maybe see this in a dark deck. I could maybe see that, but as of right now, I can't see a reason to play this card. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, I'd give it a 1. I mean, there's something to be said for this, like you said, be playing in Dark Box, and with Eternatus VMax, you have extra bench spots. Maybe you play this to kind of like gust up something that's like a threat, like a Tyranitar or a some sort of like evolutionary threat, a Blaziken. You know what I mean? An evolutionary threat. Or a VMAX, you know what I mean? Like more so, those are evolution Pokemon too. Like maybe you want to gust up like a Scizor VMAX or a Charizard VMAX or something. So I don't know. I mean, I think the meta is shifting towards towards evolution. You know, like I mean, we're going to see it with VMax. We're going to see it with, you know, not even just like stage 2, but we're shifting towards more evolution. So I could see this potentially being played as like a one of. You know, you could scoop up net to put it back, play it back down. You know, so I don't know. We'd have to see. I'm going to give it a 1.5. I'm going to give it a 1.5, a little bit more, because I can see the utility in this with kind of where the meta's going.
Yeah, I think if like every single deck becomes a VMAX or other evolution deck, I could see this seeing play. But even in evolution decks, you know, evolutions require basics, and you're not going to be able to get them until they evolve. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give this thing a 1.5 as well. I was thinking about maybe a 2, but I think right now in the meta, I don't think this is going to see play yet. But like I said, if the meta shifts to where it's literally everybody is playing evolutions, maybe I could see it being played.
Right.
So
right.
Cool. Well, let's go to Crobat V. This is an obvious 5 for everyone. It has an ability Dark Asset, which is literally just setup. When you play this from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in hand. You can't use more than 1 Dark Asset ability each turn. The only bad thing about this card is that this might be their final step before banning Shaman and Expanded. And we're not even totally positive that's happening, but it could possibly be happening. This could literally just be a replacement for Shaman, and they could ban Shaman because they're tired of reusing 4. But everything else about this card is amazing. Yeah, fives all around, I would assume, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely 1,000% a 5. You know, in some ways too. I mean, it does have 180 HP. Shaman does have 110. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely not as good as Shaman, but it does. You know, one big weakness of Shaman is that it only has 110 HP. That's very easy to kind of like ping off. You know what I mean? This with 180, that's 70 more HP. That's quite a bit more.
Right.
You know, so.
And if you look at Dedenne too, like with Dedenne's got 160 and this is 180.
Yeah.
So having 20 more HP than Dedenne, I mean, like Cramorant V has seen play in several decks literally only because it can hit exactly 160 and knock out Dedenne.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So no, 5. Easy 5. Easy 5.
Easy 5. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to another non-V, non-GX, non-anything special. Dark card with Darkrai here. So 120 HP. We got Grass Weakness, an ability Darkness Guard that if this has any dark energy attached to it, it takes 20 less damage from attacks. And then 3 colorless will get us into Vortex of Darkness, 60. Plus this attack does 20 more damage for each dark energy attached to this. So if we just run through the math really quick on this, if you have 3 dark energies attached, you're going to be hitting for 120, which isn't amazing. But I do think that there's something to be said of Dark Box in this with a Weavile. I don't know that that's going to be the preferred way to play Dark over Eternatus, or even the preferred way to play Eternatus itself. But I will say that in a Dark Boxy kind of list, Darkrai could be good because you could be moving like a lot of energy to it and taking like big KOs with a non-GX, a good way to like close the game or something like that. So that's where I see Darkrai's place. I think it's an alright card. I don't think it's amazing, but I do think it's okay.
I think it's actually really good. I'm definitely super on board with this card. When you have the full Dark Box, well, this is it. When you have the full Dark Box set up, you know, you could just, you know, whether it be Weavile, Hydreigon, you're moving all your energies to it, you know, potentially for an attack. Like if you want to like deal damage to something and like just so they can ping off your one prize and then you can finish them off, or like it's a great kind of like bait card that does a lot of damage. So like they're only taking one prize, but they're dealing a lot of damage. You know, you don't want to put all your energies on it, you know, because when you knock out, the energies go away. But no, I think it's really good. I think it's good in the same way that Cramorant from Rebel Clash is really good, where you're kind of just like this thing will take as many energies as you throw at it,
right.
And it can deal a pretty big damage. I think the ability isn't too not relevant. It's what now it needs 140 to knock it out, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 3.
That's where I was going to put it too. I think it's a 3. I think it will see play in probably like 50% of dark lists, which I think is enough to give it a 3. Dark's going to be really good. I just don't know how what kind of counts they're going to be playing. It's probably going to be like a one of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good number for it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next dark Pokemon here. We got Liepard or Leopard, however you would prefer to say it. We got ability Limber. It can't be paralyzed and Slashing Claw for 1 dark and 2 colorless. I am sad to say that this card is really bad because Purloin is my cat's spirit Pokemon. So that's kind of sad. But I think this card's really terrible. What do you think, Winter?
Yep. It's really bad. I do agree. I was going through my bulk yesterday from Darkness Ablaze, and I found the Purloin, and I'm just like, that is my cat. Because we have like the same cat. So
yeah. Yep, we both have mischievous black kittens. So yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I did also find it funny that it has the attack Dig Claws. How appropriate.
Yeah, right, for real.
How appropriate. But yeah, no, Purloin's unfortunately a bad card. Cool Pokemon, bad card.
Yep, I agree. All right, so now we're getting to Hydreigon, though. Winter, why don't you talk to us about Hydreigon? I mean, we got that ability Dark Squall that just you can attach as many dark energies from your hand as you like to one of your Pokemon. So what do you think? What do you think about this card?
Well, we're finally getting the Dark Deluge. We've had Blastoise for water, Emboar for fire, and then Magnezone for both electric and steel. Now we're getting the Dark Deluge. So this card's awesome. I think the only drawback is, of course, it is a stage 2, but you'd play Rare Candy. You'd play, that 4-1-4 line of 4 basic dinos, 1 Zylus, 1 Hydreigon, and then you play 4 Rare Candies to get this out as quickly as possible, and just move all the energies onto like a big boss, like Grimmsnarl VMax, Eternatus VMax, potentially Malamar VMAX, so no, I think this card is fine. I mean, specifically for dark decks, so I'd give it a 3 because it's really powerful, but only for dark.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 3 as well, and I think the reason why I even hesitate maybe to give it a 3, like I'm kind of almost wanting to give it a 2, but I'm going to stick with 3 because I think it is a good card, and the only reason why I struggle with it is because if you look at the Pokemon that we have had that have similar effects to this, sometimes they're really good and sometimes they see like 0 play. So I think we sort of have to see how this thing shakes out. We do have some cards that could benefit from it. We just talked about Darkrai, where it does more damage with the more energy attached to it. But I mean, there's I'm not totally positive that this is going to be the way to play Dark yet. So that's why I'm giving it a 3 instead of something higher. So
makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so we got a Hoopa. People have been talking about this as kind of like the non-GXV attacker in dark decks. So we got 1 Darkness Energy, 120 HP, 1 Darkness Energy, Assault Gate, 90. If this didn't move from the bench to the active spot this turn, it does nothing. The attack is not affected by weakness. So what do you think about hitting for 90 for 1 energy on a switch, Winter?
I think this card is actually really cool. So this is because you only need 1 energy. You could play Aurora Energy, and you could just put this in a lot of decks. Like kind of similar to how that Zapdos was played. You know what I mean? Like that was a really good kind of switch card. And you could you could kind of move this around too. For decks where it's relevant. You could definitely play this as a one of in a lot of decks and just play an Aurora Energy. It's super versatile. I don't really know how. I think 90 for 1 is good, but is it enough for some decks? Is I think where I'm kind of sitting on it. It's absolutely a one of if you play it in a deck that's not. I mean, really, if you play it in any deck, I think it's a one of. You don't really want to play too much of this card, but you'd switch into it, deal the deal the 90. I think it's pretty good. I mean, I'd give it like a 2.5. I give it like a 2.5 because it's fringe for sure. But it has a lot of versatility. I mean, it's not a bad card.
Yeah, I'm going to give this thing a 2. And for the same reason, and the one thing that I see about this card people have been calling it like similar to the Zapdos, and it totally is similar to that Zapdos, but Zapdos is way, 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 way better because it only had one retreat and access to Electro Power just made that card super good. So I think maybe some people, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, Winter, but I think some people that I've heard talking about this card are expecting it to see play like Zapdos saw play, and I don't think this is going to see the same amount of play that Zapdos did. I do think that it is, you know, just another tool that dark decks have. So it's definitely not a bad card, but I don't think it's going to see a ton of play. I don't think this is necessarily going to be the non-V attacker of choice for most dark decks. So I'm gonna give it a 2. So yeah, let's go to Thievul. Thievul has 100 HP. It's a stage 1. Dude, it's got nasty plot on it.
It does. It does, so
for one. Yeah, nasty plot is always fine, but not really on a stage 1 that you have to commit to leaving in the active that only has 100 HP. So this is a bad card. Winter, do you have any disagreement there?
I have 0 disagreement. In fact, I agree fully.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's get into Grimmsnarl and Grimmsnarl VMax then. So Grimmsnarl V has 220 Grass Weakness. For 1 energy, it has Bite for 40, and for 3 energy, it's got Spiky Knuckle for 200. Put 2 Dark Energy attached to this into your hand. And then the max has 330 HP, and for 3 Dark, you got G-Max Drill 170. This does 50 more damage for each extra Dark attached to this, but you can't add more than 100 damage this way, so it maxes out at 270. Winter, you talked about this card as maybe a Hydreigon target. So why don't you start us off? What do you think about Grimmsnarl?
Sure. So Grimmsnarl V in particular is what is kind of more so because you do have that cap with Grimmsnarl VMax, but I think being able to deal 200 and then you put them back in your hand as opposed to discarding is a lot better, because then you can just pop them right back on, deal 200 again, which is strong. Bite is irrelevant. You're not going to really attack with that.
Right. Maybe first turn.
Yeah, maybe, like exactly. Like maybe if you have first turn, you have it out and you just kind of want to, like, you know, you're not really too worried, you know what I mean? You attack. Now G-Max Drill is really good, you know, because, you know, you put on extra, so you do the Hydreigon as well. I mean, you're not loading up a ton because, you know, you do have the cap, but no, it's still good for this deck for sure, because having, you know, 270 is pretty strong. I don't really I understand why they have to do the cap just because the card's so powerful, but it'd almost be better to have this attack does 30 more damage for each Dark Energy and then have no cap.
Right.
You know, like I feel like that would be better. I feel like the cap just really hurts this card. I mean, it makes it a lot weaker than it should be. I mean, 270, you know, for what would that be? No, wait, hold on a sec.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be 6 energies.
Yeah, it'd be 6 energies. So no, sorry, 5 energies. And like that's 5. Like Charizard VMax does 300 for 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
So 270 for 5. That's weak. You know what I mean? I think it's better on Grimmsnarl V because 3 for 200 is really strong.
Yeah.
But Grimmsnarl VMax capping at 270, not that good.
Yeah.
They're still strong. They still have good HP. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about them. So I'd probably look at giving them like a between it. I don't want to say 2, and I'd say 2.5. I'd say 2.5. I can't really decide. They're somewhere in the middle. They're strong, but there's just better cards.
Yeah, and I think that's my problem. So like 270 with the VMax. First of all, the VMax is really bad. Like if I had to rate them separately, I would give Grimmsnarl like a VMax like a 1, and Grimmsnarl V like a 4, because Grimmsnarl V is pretty good, and you do have that, like with Hydreigon, you can just get, you know, extra energy attached, which is pretty cool, or even an expanded just like dark patching to it. Like, so like I actually think Grimmsnarl V is pretty good. So I think you'd probably play this deck similar to how like Morpeko V was being played when it first came out, where you'd play like a bunch of the Grimmsnarl V, but you'd only play like one Grimmsnarl V Max just as kind of like a closer, like just in case you came against something. So I think that's probably how you would play. But yeah, for 5 energy, you have for 270 with Grimmsnarl V Max, and like that's what Eternatus hits for. With an easier condition to get to that 270 and less energy. Right. So I think I don't see why you could play Grimmsnarl VMax as a deck in itself, but Grimmsnarl V, I mean, as just like a deck that's a bunch of tube prizers, like that's not the worst thing in the world. So I'm right with you there. I think as a pair, they get probably like a 2. just because I think there are better options. But I do actually like Grimmsnarl V. I would probably, if I was just looking at that card itself, I'd probably just give that one like maybe like a 3.5 or a 4. But yeah, no, I think you said everything that needs to be said. So let's move on to Eternatus then. Eternatus is probably one of the most hyped cards coming out of this set. For 220 on the basic, you got 220 Fighting Weakness, and for 1 colorless, you got Power Accelerator, which does 30. And what do there? You do attach a Dark, right, to bench Pokemon, I believe, and then you have a Dark 3 colorless for Dynamax Cannon, 120 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a VMAX, this does 120 more damage, so you can get 240 on a VMAX. And then the VMAX itself has 340, an ability Eternal Zone, which is basically just Skyfield for only Dark Pokemon. You cannot play non-Dark Pokemon if you have Eternatus VMAX active, and there actually was an official ruling that even if you're not wanting the ability, as long as Eternatus VMAX has that ability, you cannot play non-Dark Pokemon, period. Even if you only have like 2 on the bench, you still can't do it. So, and for a Dark and a colorless, you have Dread End, 30 times the amount of Dark Pokemon you have in play. So if you have 8 on the bench, 1 in the active, that's 9 times 3 is 270. So you're capping out at 270 with Eternatus VMAX. I like this a lot. I think Dynamax Cannon is really good to hit 240. My problem with Eternatus is that you have to be reliant on this like 2-shotting strategy. So you need to build your deck in a way that supports 2-shotting. And one of the cool ways I think you could do that is by having, your Eternatus VMAX all set up. That is now, your big damage, and then having like playing Malolana and like some kind of small attacker like Darkrai or like Hoopa or something like that to kind of just clean stuff up. I think that could be sort of cool. But yeah, I think that's my biggest struggle with Eternatus. You're not going to get one-shots with this thing. I actually heard somebody talk about playing like a bunch of goons, playing Toxicroak to increase poison and Garbodor to poison so that you could actually get one-shots on VMAXs with Eternatus. I think that's way too much work to get this thing actually like taking one-shots.
Sounds cool.
It sounds awesome. Like it sounds really fun. Something I'd want to do. But I don't think it'll be good at all.
No. But that sounds, like that kind of like attrition style.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I am on Eternatus VMAX. I don't think it's like a 5. Like some people would say this card's a 5. I think it's definitely like more of like a 4. But I think you just have to commit to try and take 2 shots, play some healing or something like that.
Yeah, so. I'm looking at Eternatus VMAX, in particular right here, and then Dread End, potentially 270 for 2 is really strong. But it's like you said, 270, it doesn't one-shot anything. That's the issue. I mean, it one-shots Vs, but not VMAXs, which are going to be really relevant. But I mean, the power level of Eternal Zone. I mean, to have a built-in Skyfield is just like crazy. I mean, and 340 HP. I mean, I'm going to give it a 5 personally, just because like the power level on this card is insane. Eternatus V, I'd probably give like a 3 or a 4. But like, I mean, you have 340, you have a built-in Skyfield, and you're going to be loading up your bench. I mean, it's going to be easy. I mean, you have that Dark Box is going to be designed to literally have you just dump all your Pokemon in there. But just being able to have the 3 extra bench spots just for evolving this card potentially on your turn 2 is like, wow, that's really insane. So yeah, I'm gonna give regular Eternatus like a 3. I'm gonna give Eternatus VMAX a 5.
Yeah, cool. This thing is gonna be all over the table, so expect to see it in front of you if you go to tournaments for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into our metal stuff. So we have Scizor V and VMAX. So we have for 1 metal, hack off, and you discard. It's a tool or special energy, right, from your opponent's active. So that's for 30. Is it or and? And. Cool. So tool and special energies. That attack's actually really good. And then 2 metal and a colorless slashing claw for 140. And then the max has for a metal and colorless hard scissors 90. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less from attacks. And 2 metal and a colorless max steel spike for 190. So what do you think about these, Winter?
Scizor VMAX is a 1.
Scissor VMAX sucks. Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, it's so bad. I mean, there's something to be said. I've heard people talking about like you play like that metal core barrier, and then you
Yeah.
have Lucario Melmetal to dissolve damage. But like, no, it's so bad. I mean, it's definitely a very reactive card.
Yeah.
Where when you want to have a VMAX, you want to have action. You don't really want to react.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And Caesar V though is a little better. Hack Off is a really good attack that's really strong.
Yep.
Even potentially expanded playable because tools and special energies are rampant there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's like a good card for expanded, but like, you know, there's functionality there. So Hack Off is good. 140 for 3 isn't too bad, especially if you have Metal Saucer. You know what I mean? 140 for 3 isn't too bad. I'm gonna give Scissor V a 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 2. I'd give Scissor VMAX a 1. I mean, it's really cool, and Scissor is one of my top 10 favorite Pokemon. I love it, but I'm just not thrilled about that VMAX, and Scissor V in itself is not really that great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think 2 and 1 are the ways to rate these cards. I think Scizor V is the only place we're going to see some success is if we get some kind of like metal box deck that's going, which like I don't know. I think there's pieces in place for that to be the case, but I don't think that's going to rise to the top of the meta anytime soon. But if in the future it does, I think Scizor V could be good in that. Just as like an easy 1 energy boom, and 140 for 3, like Wynter said, really isn't too bad. So I'll give that like a 2. Scizor VMAX though is really terrible. Don't play it. It's horrible. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's go to our first stage 2 in the metal category with Aggron. Sturdy if this Pokemon is full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an attack. It is not knocked out. Its remaining HP becomes 10. It has 160 HP. Then Giga Stop for a metal and 3 colorless. Giga Stomp deals 160. So I think that the attack cost is really awesome because you can Metal Saucer to it and triple acceleration, so you can get it rolling in 1 turn. Sturdy is really cool on the face of it, but I just don't know how relevant it is right now. We got a lot of stuff that can poison. We got a lot of stuff that can drop damage counters with Goons, and Goons is seeing a lot of play in like a lot of different decks. So I'm not sure how reliable this Pokemon's going to be, but I do think it's a really cool Pokemon. So I don't really want to give it like a 1, but I don't think it's going to see play. So I kind of want to give it like a 1.5. What do you think, Wynter?
I'm going to give it a 1. We've seen a card like this before. So Sturdy is funny because Sturdy is actually the name of an ability in the Pokemon video games. So I thought that was kind of cool. And Sturdy in the video games is this Pokemon cannot be knocked out. It cannot be knocked out by moves that one-hit KO. So like Guillotine, Horn Drill, and Fissure, or Sheer Cold. Those are all like one, like instant knockout moves. So that's what Sturdy does in the games. We've had already a Pokemon with Sturdy fairly recently. It was a Donphan that had the ability, and it was a stage 1. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of cool because you'd play, what was it? I think Last Chance Potion, where you would heal, if your Pokemon has 30 or less, you'd heal it. Yeah. That was cool. Right. And I don't actually know what set that's in now. That may be in standard. I can't remember. It's definitely in either XY at the latest, but that was really cool for a stage 1. Stage 2 seems like a little bit more of a far cry. Yeah. I got to give it a 1. I love the art. I love the flavor of the ability, but I'm just not really a fan. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I like the card, so I don't want to give it a 1, but it probably should be a 1. I'm gonna stick with my 1.5 just because I think it's fun. So yeah, let's move to a Escavalier then. The Escavalier has for 1 metal Fury Cutter, 10 plus, flip 3 coins. If 1 is heads, it does 20 more. If 2 are heads, it does 70 more. If all are heads, it does 140 more. So you hit for 150 on 1 metal energy. And metal and a colorless seashell attack for 60, which is really terrible. This is another one of those cards where it's like 1 energy attack, cool attack, but on a stage 1, I don't need a 1 energy attack because I've had 2 turns to set it up. So I think that's my big thing with the Escavalier. I think it's a 1. But it does have a really fun attack that I would love to see printed on more cards. What do you think, Wynter? Yes. Yeah, no, I think the same. It kind of reminds me of that Cricketune. That was one. Mm-hmm. That was one green from I think it was like Unified Minds or something like that, and it did kind of the same thing based on the number of prizes you had. Right. So it kind of reminds me of that, but it's cute. I mean, it's fun. But I don't. If you play it limited, Yicklinwood Tangle, I would certainly play it, but not in Constructed.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do Klinklang then. Klinklang is 150, Stage 2, Fire Weakness, Grass Resistance. For 2 colorless, you got Beam for 60. And for a metal and 2 colorless, you got Clockwork for 200. If you don't have Klinklang on your bench, this does nothing. What do you think about this, Winter?
I love it. It's a builder. It's like Toxtricity. It's a build around.
Yep.
And you can attack for 200 potentially on turn 2.
Yeah.
Which we have to kind of look at here. You know, like you play like a Klink, and turn 1 you rare candy and you have to play 2 Klinks, and you rare candy 1, you evolve the other. You gotta get lucky here, but you could potentially be doing 200.
Yeah.
On turn 2, with a Twin Energy and a metal. So I think it's not something to be underlooked. I'm actually going to give this card, for a build around score only, I'm going to give it a 2. Only because I feel like the deck, like if you build around it correctly, like we have a friend that plays a lot of metal, and this is a deck that I could definitely see him playing.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you, dude. I'm going to give this thing a 2 as well, because I actually don't think this is the worst thing. If Bridget was in Standard right now, I would actually give this card like a 3. Because Bridget would make this card so good. But it's not, obviously. So yeah, I'm there though.
You could play Professor Oak
setup.
Yeah.
I think they have to be different types for that though, right? It's got to be 3 different types.
Oh, yes, they do. That's why you get.
If we had Ditto, that would be dope. But
that's right.
Yeah. No, I think this card's really interesting, and I think 200 is a great damage output for a Stage 2, and to get that 200 up and rolling is not that impossible. So I like it. I like it.
No, I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2 as well. Let's go
I want to play it, actually.
Dude, me too. Let's go to our Galarian Stunfisk V. We got 200 HP on this basic, Fire Weakness, Grass Resistance, Ability Metal Skin. This Pokemon gets plus 20 HP for each metal energy attached to it. 2 colorless Trapping Bite, says 60 during your opponent's next turn. If this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. I think if you're going to try to like tank out a V, like we were sort of talking about with Caesar, this is the one to tank out. I think it is really interesting. So plus 20 for each metal. If we run through the math there, if you want to get just to your attack cost, you're going to have 240 HP, which is pretty beefy for a V Pokemon. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by attack, you put 12 damage. So essentially what you're doing is 180 damage with your attack, because you do 60, then they hit you, take 12. 180 is not bad damage output for a V. That's actually pretty good. So I don't think this thing is terrible. I don't think it's great. I think it is sort of like a meme in itself. But I don't think it's horrible. So what's your number on this, Winter?
Quite honestly, a 3.
3, okay.
I'm going to give it a 3. I think this card is really, really cool. It's a 3 for like maybe a build around category. But I think you put Trapping Bite, or you have Trapping Bite, and then you also play Giant Bomb on this. Mm-hmm. You're potentially doing 220 damage just because like the defending Pokemon, or you're the defending Pokemon. You play Metal Core Barrier on this as well to take out damage. You could potentially do a Lucario Melmetal strategy to keep this living.
Yep.
But like, and I mean like. Even like I'm thinking also too, in expanded, you have access to the Magnezone expanded, so you can just keep putting on tons of energy to it,
right? And
just making this like combo deck where this card doesn't get knocked out, and you're dealing tons of damage.
Yeah. No, I can see this too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm giving this a 3. I'm giving it a 3. I think it's a super. It's just a great like a great like kind of control-y card. You know what I mean? You're baiting your opponent into attacking, and they have to really decide, okay, do I really want to let this go? Do I want to knock this out? Like, what are my options here? So like they've got to really decide what their game plan is. Like you're kind of making them react to what you're doing, which is a good place to be. And this kind of strategy is not really something we see a lot in Pokemon. Something that's this kind of like controlling. You know what I mean? Where it really punishes the opponent for attacking. So this is cool.
No, I really like this card as well. I don't know if I'm sold enough on it to go 3. I was going to go 2, but but I think that we could see this popping up here and there, especially as sort of like Full Metal Wall stuff really starts being played. So yeah, I like Lariat Stunfisk. I'm not sure. I'm not super convinced about it though. Winter, you're gonna have to show me.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. All right, moving on to Melmetal. Speaking of Luke Metal here, we got a Melmetal card in here. It's 150 HP. For 1 metal, you got Energy Link 30. Attach an energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon, and then a metal and 3 colorless will get you into 130 damage with heavy impact. It's got 4 retreat cost. I don't. These attacks seem basic Pokemon level to me. Like
playing this in any format is wrong.
Yeah, it's really bad, and that kind of sucks because like Melmetal seems like a really cool Pokemon, but like they cannot get his cards right.
No,
they're like all bad.
No, playing this in any format is wrong.
Yeah, I agree. It just seems really underpowered. I don't think they did a good job designing this one. The art's kind of cool though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Like that's what I love about Pokemon. Is like at the end of the day, no matter how bad the card is, the art is always cool.
Yeah, you're right.
They always draw them really well, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move into Copperajah. This maybe is one that has a little bit more viability as a Stage 1 non-GX, non-V Pokemon. We got an ability Antibacterial Skin. This can't be affected by any special conditions. Plus, it's got 190 HP, which is pretty beefy for a Stage 1. 2 metal.
Beefy, indeed.
Yeah, it's big. 2 metal, 2 colorless will get Vengeful Stomp, 120. And if your benched Pokemon have any damage counters on them, this does 120 more damage. So you're hitting for 240. If you play like a Spiritomb, or even if you just have a Copperajah on the bench. Hitting pretty good numbers here. I think this is maybe the way to go if you're looking at a non-V, non-GX metal deck. I think this could be pretty good. I'm going to give this card a 3. What do you think, Winter?
I'm right there with you. I'm going to give it a 3. So you could potentially attack for on this card on your turn 2. You play Q-Fant, you attach. Maybe you quick ball for something. You quick ball for the Spiritomb, discard a metal energy. Next turn, play Twin, Metal Saucer onto it. You're now attacking for 240. Potentially turn 2.
Right.
So no, I think this card's really strong for a Stage 1. It's good. It's really good. You have access to a lot of good like metal like defense, like Metal Core Barrier. Help kind of keep your HP in check. No, it's a good card. It's good. I'm going to give it a 3.
Sweet. Yeah, let's go to Kangaskhan then, our first colorless Pokemon. Dude, we're on the home stretch here.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Kangaskhan, bro. So Kangaskhan, 130 HP. We got a basic Pokemon here. We got Rally Back is really the attack to talk about here. We got 30 plus if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon during their last turn. This attack does 90 more. What do you think about that attack, Winter? Is that viable for Standard?
No, it's really bad, but I'm just confused why they didn't call it Retaliate.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
This is literally Retaliate.
Right. That is odd. I wonder if like Kangaskhan in the games like tends to do an attack called Rally Back or something that they wanted to give like some Kangaskhan flavor. I don't know.
I've never heard. I pretty much at this point I know every Pokemon move just from like the the moves don't change that much unless they're like I don't there's some of the moves in Sword and Shield I know. I've never heard of Rally Back. This to me just reminds me of Retaliate, but no, I think this card is just straight hot garbage.
Yeah, I don't think it's very good, but once again, the art is super dope on this card actually.
Oh yeah,
like
it's cute. Yeah,
this is very, very well drawn. Like whoever did it did a fantastic job, and the coloring is great. Even more so than the other ones that we've said as cooler. I think this one's got some pretty dope art.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's definitely awesome.
But it's definitely a 1. So
yeah, it's definitely a 1. Yeah, I don't like that Retaliate thing. It's like, why isn't this Retaliate?
Yeah, consistency is always a positive. Sweet. So let's get to our next one. I put Furret on here just because it's one of those other ones that's really good for limited. For 1 energy, you just draw 3 cards. And then for Tail Smash, flip a coin if Tails does nothing. But if you got Glimwood Tangle, this is probably a must play in your limited deck. So it's definitely a 1 for constructed, but it's good in limited. So
Yeah, one for 90 is not bad. I mean, this card is bad, but like one for 90 is not bad. I think this is definitely a good limited card for sure.
absolutely. So let's move into Dunsparce. Here's another one that I just thought was really interesting. It's got this ability, Final Dig. If this Pokemon's knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. This, I think, is interesting in a more traditional mill deck. Now, I don't know if the more traditional mill deck is viable right now because we lost Beloved and Bryson Man, but almost like what you do with dolls, you could do with Dunsparces. Like you could just scoop everything up besides your Dunsparces and force your opponent to knock out Dunsparce, and then you could put like Cursed Shovel on them too. I think it could be kind of interesting. However, I think losing Beloved and Bryson Man kind of takes this card out of playability, so I'm going to give it a 1. But I do think it was an interesting ability on a Pokemon.
I mean, the Dunsparce. So basically, you're losing a prize, but your opponent loses 2 cards on the top of their deck. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't know if it's great either. Like, I do think it's cool that you can kind of go like lone Dunsparce and then like some dolls on the bench just for like some extra millage. But like I said, I think Below and Bryson Man being banned really takes this out of playability because I don't think the classic just mill is going to help.
Yeah, rip. After respect, all the rips. That's just sad.
Yeah, it is. It is sad. So definitely a 1 for Dunsparce, but let's see if our next Pokemon can get us anything better. Dude, we got Ursaring. So shout out to my friend Christian who loves Teddiursa. It's his favorite Pokemon. Just because
awesome.
It looks like the internet sensation Pedo Bear, so he's like obsessed with Teddiursa. So yeah, but Ursaring looks pretty bad. It's got a lot of attack cost and doesn't really do a lot. I mean, for 70, you can discard the top card of your opponent's deck with a triple acceleration energy. But I'm thinking this is a solid 1. What do you think?
It is definitely a 1.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Let's see what we can get down the line here. We got Lugia here. Lugia is also a 1. I don't even think we really need to read it, right?
No, we don't even need to read it. It's what, like it's 120 for 3. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. Delcatty, Captivating Tail. For 1 energy, you switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. The new active is now confused. That seems fun, but not really on a stage 1. So I'd probably downvote this one too. What do you think?
I'm gonna give that a 1 also. It's unfortunate that there's so many like cards that are 1s. Like it's like we've given like what 2 5s.
Yeah, I mean the 5 is special, but like even 4. Yeah, a lot of these are bad. I know there's some stuff coming up though. Let's see if we can get. Okay, yeah. Here's Salaman's V and VMax. So
nice.
The V has 220 for 3 energy. We got Supercross. This does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Then for 4 colorless, we got Heavy Storm for 160. The VMax has for 1 colorless Sonic Double. This attack does 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. And for 4 colorless, you got Max Wings, 240. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Max Wings. What are your thoughts on Salamence, Winter?
So my first thought is finally a relevant target for what is it? Powerful energy.
Yes.
You know the colorless energy that does 20 extra.
Yeah.
This is a target. For it,
Spoiler alert.
We have a good. Oh yeah, sorry. We have a good colorless Pokemon.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think these cards are really good. They're still, the price on them is still really high even before we have like a concrete deck. Like people are really specking on this card. The spread damage is awesome, and they're just really beefy. Like they're it's like an all around good colorless Pokemon. Which is good. I think it's a real heavy hitter.
Yeah, I think the way you have to play this card, though, is getting that first attack off on your first turn. Like, I almost feel like you have to play this with Welder so that you can spread that 30 damage. Because, like, with Max Wings, like, 240 is just not enough. So, and the 3 attack cost on Supercross isn't great. But, you know, one of the other things that you can do, though, is play a little bit of a slower game and just try to attach powerful energies every turn. And then Max Wings obviously gets bigger for every powerful energy you have attached.
So hear me out here. So when I was going over the set and making notes for this whole thing, So think of this. What if you had what if you Jirachi turn like what if you Jirachi in the active, Porygon, turn two, Rare Candy Porygon Z, attach like multiple power energies.
Mm-hmm.
Or you attach some draw energies, or you just keep just keep ramping up to hit that max swing. Now that would be cool.
That would be a sweet deck, and I think like you kind of hit it there. Like I feel like you would have to play draw energies. You would probably like maybe play some kind of lightning Pokemon so that you could play speed lightning energy, because you're going to have to get some way to get all 4 of those powerful energies into your hand. I think that's going to be the difficult thing there. Also in standard, we don't have anything to recur special energy, so we're not going to be attaching all of our powerful energies to one Salamence VMAX, or maybe we are. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think Porygon could be really interesting with this card, because you can like draw energy, you can like weakness guard energy. Like there's a lot of relevant colorless energies, capture energy. Like there's a lot of them. So I think Porygon's a way to play this. I think Welder's a way to play this. I think powerful energy is probably something you're going to want to play in all your lists. I mean, really, 240, if you have 1 Goon and 1 powerful energy, you get up to 270, which is obviously a benchmark number. 2 Goons gets you to 280, or another powerful energy. Like if you Welder 2 Fire and then attach a power energy and then attach another powerful energy, well, now you're hitting for what, 280? 280 is pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good card. I don't think it's a 5. I think it's probably like a 3.5 or a 4, in my opinion. What's your number?
I'm actually going to say 4. I think the that kind of spread damage, like Sonic Double, like 40 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. That's great. That could be hitting a benched Bunnelby.
Mm-hmm.
That can be hitting like a lot of it could be hitting like little guys, but also like really making that spread damage happen. Which is something that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of where you have to go with the deck. You kind of have to build it around something with like Porygon. I don't think this really fits into Fire. I feel like you have to build it around making your Salamence VMAX as strong as possible with max wings.
Mm-hmm. You know what I just thought about as well, though, as you were saying that, is if you can get Swoop Across off turn 1, it does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, so everything has 30 on it, and then you do 40. Well, now you're hitting the bench for 70 twice. So if they have 2 Jirachis, you just take 2 prize cards with Sonic Double.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that could be something. And that requires no extra energy attachment. You just have the 1 instance of 3 energies, whether it be Welder or some other way. So yeah, I think this is cool. I mean, I think I'm still going to stick with like either 3.5 or 4 rating. But I am curious to see what this card does in standard.
Yeah, it's definitely really strong. I can see the hype around it for sure.
Yeah, same here. Well, let's go on to our next Pokemon here. We got Staraptor. It has 150 HP, and I was really interested with this Hurricane Blender attack for 1 colorless, 70, move any amount of energy from your Pokemon to any other Pokemon any way you like. Of course, there's also 3 energy Brave Bird for 170, and it does 30 damage to itself. I think this is probably the best Staraptor we've seen. I don't necessarily know that it's going to see any play, but I do think it was cool, so I put it in here. I'm probably still going to give this like a 1, but it was a cool card. Did you have any thoughts about this one, Winter?
Hurricane Blender is pretty cool. I mean, not only is it like 1 for 70, which is pretty strong. You know what I mean? But the effect, you know what I mean? Like moving all the energy around. Like you said, I don't think it's going to see any play at all. But that's kind of a cool ability. Like we typically don't get a good Staraptor, you know?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree, man. All right, moving on to our next one. We got Swanna. Dude, what do you think about Swanna? We got another Sky Circus here. Feather Slice, 70. You may discard a card from your hand. If you do, this does 70 more damage. So you could potentially hit 140 for 0 energy if you play Bird Keeper. What are your thoughts on Swanna?
Well, so here's the thing. It's one of those cards that's like it's definitely a build around with Bird Keeper, but it's not a good card. Like you don't want to play it. This is a card that you jam as much as you can into like a pre-release deck. Right. Like this is a card that makes a really fun pre-release. You have everything for you know, with Birdkeeper, and you're playing the Sky Circus, and like you're like all jazzed about it because it's cool, but you really don't want to play it outside of a limited environment.
Yeah, no, I see that. I definitely see that.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right there. I don't think it's very good. I mean, I'm just gonna give it a 1. What do you think you would give it?
1. Yeah, 1.
Same deal. Cool.
Yeah, 1, 2 if you build around it in pre-release.
2 just for limited. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
2 just for limited.
It is cool to see a colorless Swanna. Kind of interesting.
That's true. We have seen water ones in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, it's usually water. So that's kind of fun. All right, moving into Greedent. I don't know if you caught Greedent in any of your research for this set, but for 1 colorless, we got Scrape Off 20. Before doing damage, you discard all Pokemon tools from your opponent's active Pokemon. And then for 2 colorless, you got Smack and Run for 100. Put this Pokemon and all attached cards into your hand. I actually think this card's pretty decent. What do you think, man?
Well, it's got like it's got the hit and run, you know, like pretty much, you know.
Right.
I'm not jazzed about it. I mean, I think it's a 1. The thing that gave me the most kind of attention here was the fact that it says multiple tools off your opponent's active Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true. Discard all Pokemon tools. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're thinking someone's going to play some weird cube or play expanded where the Siglith that can have up to 4 tools is.
There you go. Or Genesect.
What was that?
Genesect GX, man.
True, yeah, Genesect GX, yep. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a kind of a cool ability. There's always some sort of fringe deck that does like hit and run type stuff, you know. But I don't know. I'd have to see it. I want this to see play in like a cool deck like that. I'm gonna give it a 1 for now.
Yeah, I'm gonna do like 1.5 just because I do think that this is a really good, like, Smack and Run seems like it could be something that somebody builds around for just like a cheap budget deck.
Smack and Run.
Yeah,
I love that name.
Me too. All right, moving to the next one, we got Corviknight. Dude, I think this is a 1, but like this ability is so cool. So when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put one of your Pokemon except any Corviknight and all attached cards into your hand. Like, that is so cool for like picking up, like, for instance, in Lucario Melmetal, like you can pick up that Luke Metal, so that's not a 3 prize liability anymore. But like the fact that it's on a stage 2, I think makes it unplayable, but it is so cool.
It's definitely a really interesting ability. Like, I'm even thinking about like if you were playing like some sort of like what is it? Like not like a Galarian Zigzagoon, but like something that like does like that damage like that you can keep reusing over and over again. You know what I mean? There's some like recursion there, like bench recursion, you know, which is kind of cool. So you can just keep reusing the abilities again. I think it's a really cool ability. I think Flying Taxi, plus the name is cool, the art is great, you know.
Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah.
What's your number on this?
I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because it's cool.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna be as well. And you were going to say something about Blasting Wind, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, well, Blasting Wind is kind of cool. I mean, it's a triple acceleration target. You can welder it, but I mean, like 120 for 3 on a stage 2 like this isn't. I mean, it's not good, but it's not like this card is interesting, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it is a 1.5. I mean, with Devolution Spray, like maybe something could happen. I don't know, but yeah, I don't love it. But it is super cool. So that's where I'm at with it. All right, so we got to the trainers. Here's our first trainer is Big Parasol. As long as the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, it's a tool, of course. Prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon. Winter, you were talking to me about this card before we started recording. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, this card's really good. It shuts off Dragapult, the Dragapult abilities. Even in, I mean, it's in the standard relevant card too, but even Ultra Necrozma and Expanded, it shuts off the discard and energy effect. This card's really good. There's so many more applications for it. These are just the things I'm thinking of off the top of my head here, and things I have written down. But like, this card's really good. I mean, removing the effects of attacks are really good. If only they shut down Alta Creation.
Yeah. I mean, Prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all your Pokemon. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah,
it won't.
It doesn't shut down the other creation. Because it would be the effects. It would be like discarding an energy or put damage counters on, or you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. But it's too bad it doesn't shut down all the creation like Ranger does.
Yeah,
that'd
be pretty intense. That'd be pretty intense. I do think it's a really cool card. I think there's definitely a place for it in some decks. But yeah, what's your number for it?
4, definitely 4.
4? Okay. I'm going to say 3 only because I don't know what deck it goes in yet.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think. Yeah, you kind of have to evaluate the bad matchups. You know what I mean, and like what decks are really hurt by cards that have like powerful effects in their attacks.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, moving to the next one, we got Billowing Smoke. This is maybe the meanest trainer card in the set. If this Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, the player discards any prize cards they would take for that knockout instead of putting those cards into their hand. So hear me out on this deck. This is like the weirdest deck I've ever thought of. Here it is. Ready? So you use the Galarian Mr. Rime from this set that switches the card that's on the top of your opponent's deck with one of their prize cards. Then you play Clefable to move their energy to the top of their deck. Or you Clefable the energy to the top of their deck. You use Mr. Rime's ability to put that in their prize cards, and then all your Pokemon have Billowing Smoke so that they never draw any of the energy that you Clefable. That's my deck. It's really it's like so bad. Dude, but that's what I thought of.
How are you not a Commander player? Because that's literally like the thought, like in Magic, that's literally like that's literally like a Commander, like that's like an ideal Commander play. Like for like a what do they call them? For like a Timmy or like a Johnny that's just building like this. Yeah, a Johnny, someone that builds like crazy combo decks.
Okay.
Like that's you're the Johnny of Pokemon.
Okay, I'll take that.
I love it though. I'm a Johnny too. Like I love like combos are the best. I love combos.
Yeah. So that is what I thought of with Billowing Smoke. I know that will never happen, and it's absolutely horrible. But I think Billowing Smoke is cool. But the same problem I have with Parasol I have with this is that I don't really know what deck it goes in, and there are going to be a lot of decks that just don't really care that they don't get their prize cards, So I'm gonna actually vote this one lower than I voted Parasol. I'm going to give this one a 2. What are your thoughts about this card, though?
I'm going to give it a 1. I mean, like, typically taking prizes is kind of like you're already, like, if you're taking prizes, like, you're already ahead. You know what I mean? Like, discarding the 3 prizes isn't really, I mean, it can be, it can be if you're, like, in a really close game, but, like, I don't want this card taking up a spot in my 60,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Cool. Well, let's go to Bird Keeper. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon if you do draw 3 cards. I love this card. I don't think it's going to be played in high counts at all, but I do think that we're going to see this card as a one of in a ton of decks. Because Switch Draw 3 is pretty decent. Winter, what do you think?
I give it a 2. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is like a. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like Tate and Liza a little bit, but you get kind of like both, but you just don't get 2 cards. So like right. I think it's cool. I like sometimes you don't want to do both though. That's the thing. Right. That's where like Tate and Liza is just better, is you can choose. Like you may just need to get 3 cards, but you don't want to switch.
Right.
So like, it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those things where it does good things, but do you want both of those things all the time? Like I would give it a 2 because I think it's definitely got utility and it's a good card. But I give it a 2. I think I'm at a 2 with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a little higher vote of a 3, just because I think you're gonna see this on the table. So I definitely think it's gonna be played, but I definitely think it's a more mediocre card that a lot of decks will play as kind of like a just in case type thing, as like an extra supporter card to have to just be a little bit more consistent. So. Switch decks are going to like it. They might play 2 or 3 of them, but I don't think we'll see it all over the place. But I do think that we will see it, so I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Cape of Toughness then. That's our next card here. It's an item that says basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 50 HP except Pokemon GX. I mean, I think this is really cool. I think this card makes basic non-GXs look a little bit better. I mean, I'm looking at this card. I'm thinking, I don't know what deck you're thinking about for this, but I'm kind of thinking of like Vikavolt V, maybe something like that, where you're playing like exclusively basic Pokemon probably, and just give your Vikavolt plus 50 HP. Sounds pretty good to me. But then the other thing is obviously like your non-GX, non-V decks, maybe, depending upon if you have something that's tanky or not. And that's the problem is like with some of those smaller Pokemon that are basic, they're going to get one-shotted even if they do have 50 HP. So that's the downfall of this card, but the fact that you can use this for Vs as well, I think is really good. What do you think, Winter?
I think that this card is meant for Galarian Stunfisk V.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is what you want to do. You want to kind of build up that wall, you know, that Stunfisk wall. They do damage to you. They don't knock you out, but then they get tanked. You know, I think that's kind of where like I'm thinking this card is this card's really good. Like something like that, like building up that HP. You're still alive, but then they just take 220 damage. You know, which is like wow, like that's insane. So that's kind of where I see it most used. I mean, of course, you're going to put it in, you know, anything that's not a. You're going to put it in, yeah, like you said, Vikavolt. You know, you could put it in. Like if you're just playing just Grimmsnarl, you know, like something like that, you know, and it's something to increase because 50 HP is that's a lot, you know, that's a lot to increase your HP by. I mean, 50 HP is a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I see it mostly in Galarian Stunfisk.
I like it too. What's your number on this card?
Probably a 2. No, yeah, probably 2.
Yeah, I think this is another one that I might upvote a little bit more than that, where I'll stick it at 3, just because I do think that, like, you know, we're giving like actual relevant examples of where this card will see play, even as the tool for that deck. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I say now the problem with the HP stuff though is that it always is susceptible to Tool Scrapper, so it's not amazing.
Right. Yeah, Tool Scrapper is pretty. I think Tool Scrapper gets more relevant because there's a lot of tools coming in this set in particular.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 3, and I'm looking forward to see like where it actually ends up in decks. So, yeah. Let's take a look at Familiar Bell. Familiar Bell, search your deck for a Pokemon with the same name as a Pokemon in your discard pile. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This sounds like something that Mad Party could use, but what do you think, Winter?
That's exactly. All I think of is that bell is like probably like a Mad Party prop. Like, you know, they're ringing the bell. It's tea time. Right. You know, yeah. This is only in Mad Party. Yeah. I can't see where this would have any other application. I'm gonna give it a 1 just because it's really only good in Mad Party.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. I think that that's exactly the problem with this card. So, yeah.
You know, it's good for that deck. Like like in that deck in particular, it's probably like a 3 or a 4. Yeah. Because of you're just literally grabbing a Pokemon and then you can discard it with, you know, you could discard it to Poltegeist. You know, so like it's a good card, but that's literally that. I mean, you could play it in Night March too, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, this, you know, I don't think you'd play this in Expanded even with Mad Party. No, there's too many. There's more utilities. I mean, I'd rather play like Battle, because like the only reason why you're getting it in your hand is to discard it. Why not just skip the process and play Battle Compressor? Yeah, you know. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool, man. All right, so let's take a look at Glimwood Tangle. I love this card. Once during each player's turn. That's awesome. Oh yeah. After that player flips any coins for an attack, they may ignore all results for those coin flips and begin flipping those coins again. Dude, I love this card. I think it makes any card that says flip a coin on it more viable, and that makes me really happy. So. My number on this card, dude, I'm giving this card a 4. I think this card's great. What do you think? Yeah, I'm going to give this card a 3. I'm going to give it a 3 only because coin flipping isn't always, it's not always, like there's a lot of like really good cards out there that don't use coin flipping. So coin flipping makes cards that use coin flipping better. Right.
So I'm going to give it a 3. I think this card is awesome, and I play it now. Like I play it in expanded now.
Right.
So
Me too.
that's kind of what. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now with it. I'm gonna leave it at 3, but in the right decks, it's even higher. But overall, I'd give it a 3.
Yeah, I mean, I like cards that just blanketly make a specific thing better. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and this card, like, blatantly, it's kind of like what we said about Turffield Stadium and Rebel Clash. Like, every single grass evolution Pokemon looks better because of this card. Well, this is like that, but it's an even wider range. Every single card that says flip a coin, this card makes it look better. So, I'm a fan. All right, let's look at Kabu. Kabu says, shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 4 cards. If your active Pokemon is your only Pokemon in play, draw 8 cards instead. This card is super bad, but if it had come out in Sword of Shield, I would have said it was not bad, because this would have been so good when Obstagoon was good.
Right, yeah, right, for real.
But now it's like just really bad, I feel like.
Yeah, this card's definitely a 1. I mean, when are you ever going to have, like... I mean, this card might have been good if you still had turn 1 supporter.
Maybe. But even then, like, I'd rather be using a turn 1 supporter that gets me more cards on the field. Although I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess you could start your turn, but it doesn't end your turn or anything. So I guess you could just like draw the 8 cards and then play cards that you got from the 8 cards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Kabu is just bad, unfortunately, right now. I mean, maybe, yeah, it's just not good. They may have designed this before they put that first turn supporter rule into effect.
Possibly. I mean, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
It's possible, because this would have been good, kind of like Lily.
Right.
But.
Yeah. Dude, I remember when Lily was expensive.
Lily was.
That was crazy.
Like a $30 full art.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, crazy. Well, I'm definitely going to agree with you. Kabu is definitely a 1. Let's see if our next card has more value. Dude.
Honestly, we shouldn't even include this. It's a -10. This card is just absolutely.
So, what were they thinking?
The sad thing is, though, I actually love this card just because, like, the old PC has like the old Pokemon Red and Blue, like it looks like the Game Boy screen, and the art is cool, but this card is just so bad.
Dude, the flavor is cool. Even the flavor of being like computer search, but like really bad. Instead of discarding 2 cards, you gotta flip 2 coins, and if both are heads, then you get something from your discard pile. It's absolutely horrible. I love that it has a floppy drive on it.
I know,
like that's pretty amazing. Yeah, this card's so bad. It's like a negative. It's terrible. It's really please don't play this card. Honestly, like I wouldn't even play this card in limited. It's so bad.
I kind of want to like make like a group that's like, send me all your old PCs so we can burn them.
Well, you could drive up the value of old PC and then have a valuable card by destroying all of them. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Do a buyout.
So bad.
If I had like a few $100s to spend and like I wanted to troll, I would totally do that. Like I'd love to see like all the YouTube videos. Anyway, I'm going off.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Old PC buyout.
All right, let's go to our next card. We got Pierce, little breath of fresh air after that. Search your deck for an energy card and a darkness Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. I think the fact that we have Crobat V makes this card pretty decent. Basically, this card just reads, get a Crobat V and an energy. So that's pretty good. Obviously, if you're playing a dark deck, this card gets even better because it's any dark Pokemon, so you can also search for evolutions. You can get like an Eternatus VMax on this. Yeah, I think this card's pretty good. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, Piers is awesome. I mean, the only limitation is that it's only good for dark decks. Like pretty much because you got to get a dark Pokemon energy. But I mean, not even though. I mean, you could use this to get a Hoopa. You know what I mean? Like right. This card is following in the same path as Volkner, Karina. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it's good. Yeah,
I'm gonna give this a 4, especially for right now, just because Crobat is gonna be played in almost every deck. So yeah. So I think it even has some viability outside of just dark. So sweet. All right, let's go to Pokemon Breeders Nurturing. Choose up to 2 of your Pokemon in play. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck. You can't use this card during your first turn or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn. I was reading this card, and I was typing it out, and I was like, you know what? I wish Nagquag was still a thing when this card came out, because this would have been so good for Nagquag. What do you think about this card, Winter? I'm actually curious. What do you think this card's place in Standard is?
Let me see here. I'm trying to like see. So ultimately, I don't like. I like it. Like I just think it's kind of a cool card, but I think it's kind of bad. I mean, it's not like a. It's like them trying to make a terrible replacement for Wally by adding on an extra by saying you can choose 2 Pokemon in play. And like I've even thought about playing this in expanded in my Zoroark combo deck because I could get 2 Zoroark, but ultimately it just takes up a supporter. It's a mediocre card that takes up a supporter spot, and you can't play it on your first turn, right. Or you can't play. You should say, or a Pokemon that was played in that turn. Right. So, I mean, I think it's a cool card. I'm honestly gonna give it a 2. I'm gonna give it a 2. Okay. I think it's a cool card. I don't think it's really that good, because it's slow and kind of clunky. But I'd like to see where this card has an application. I'm considering playing it in that expanded deck. Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, man. I think 2 is where this card kind of belongs, just because it does take up that supporter for the turn. But like, I mean, I'm thinking like in Fire, like it'd be super nice to like just evolve into Ninetales and evolve into like Centiskorch or Cinderace or whatever. But like, I need to Welder in that deck, so I can't use my supporter, you know. And even like in Eternatus, man, it'd be cool to just like evolve into Eternatus and into something else that you're playing with Eternatus, you know. And like that's cool, but again, it's like, man, there's probably better cards that I should be playing there, like Pierce or like something similar to that. So yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I don't think it's a bad card, but I don't think that it's good enough to see play over the other supporters that we have. Right. So I think 2 is the way to go. Let's take a look at our next card here. We got Rare Fossil. Play this as if it were a 70 HP basic Pokemon. Okay, so this is the same as all the other fossils. Worth noting, it's got 70 HP. We're seeing a little bit of HP creep. Right now, I think Rare Fossil is really bad just because we don't have a lot of good Rare Fossil cards. So that's where I'm at right now. I think this is like a 1.5 right now. But obviously this card is as good as our Rare Fossils get. Would you agree with that, Winter? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I give it right in the middle at like 3, only because like it's a fossil. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like the cards it evolves into right now are mediocre. Maybe that 1 is passable. But I mean, it's a fossil. You know, it's doing its thing. It's colorless. There's nothing really bad about it. You know, so I'm gonna give it a 3 just because, like, for what it is, it's a fossil. You know, right. What it evolves into is kind of not that great. But you know, it's an item 70 HP. It's like our unidentified fossil now. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna give it a 3 just because it's just a fossil right in the middle. Not amazing, not bad. You know. Yeah, and like that's the reason why, you know, we take the time to just point out that there is the rare fossil here, because like it really is, like, on reflecting on the previous stuff that we talked about, the fossil cards aren't good right now. But at the same time, like, it's worth noting we've got a new type here with rare fossil where we could potentially see some cards that get good. So right. We'll see where it goes. Moving on to Rose. Rose says attach up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon VMax. If you attach any energy cards in this way, discard your hand. This card is super interesting to me because on the face of it, it both seems really good and really bad. So obviously you're attaching 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to a VMax. That's really good. Discarding your hand, not so good. But I actually think Rose is going to single-handedly create a new archetype of playing cards that let you draw up to a certain amount. So Silvally GX, for instance, is a card that a lot of people talked about seeing play, but that didn't see play. Rose plus Silvally is really good. Rose and Rose Tower, which we'll get to in a second, spoiler alert,
is really good. So I actually think we're going to start seeing a Rose archetype arise from this card, and that makes me want to put this card at a 4, even though on the face of it, it's not amazing to me. What do you think, Winter?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this card. I mean, that two basic energy acceleration, which is most of the time going to be dark. You know, it's or fire. You know what I mean? A lot of the drawbacks of Charizard were the discarding the fire energies, and now we have kind of like a way to kind of mitigate that. Same with dark. Dark is the same. You know, I think that's really strong. You know, a lot of these large attacks we've been seeing just suddenly get a lot better with a utility card like this. I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah. Yep, that's where I'm at too, man. I'm excited to see where Rose goes, what decks it ends up becoming the supporter of choice, but I think we are going to see it kind of like Welder, where it's just its own archetype. Moving on to Spikemouth. Spikemouth says, whenever a player's active Pokemon moves to the bench during their turn, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And I will say, I don't see our Rose Tower here. We missed our Rose Tower. I think that was just a mistake in the editing. So Rose Tower, let's talk about that one first. Rose Tower says once during each player's turn they can draw up to 3 cards. It's a stadium. Pairs really nicely with Rose, but it's also just really good in other stuff. What's your number for Rose Tower, Winter?
I give it like a 3. I think just drawing till you have 3 cards in your hand, you know, there's no end your turn, no anything is good. But you know, you have to have a low. You generally speaking, with a lot of cards like Crobat, with the Dene, with you know, your hand is pretty. Professor's research, your hand is going to be pretty full.
Right.
So I think a lot of the time this is not really going to be that great. I think this does kind of work off of the drawback of Rose.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but I mean, I give it a 3 just because that draw till you have 3 once per turn is pretty powerful. But
yeah,
I don't think it's amazing. Most of the time, I think I'm going to want to play like a very neutral stadium, like Chaotic Swell. You know, like Chaotic Swell. Like you know, a lot of times, I'm trying to think what you'd play. Black. What's that? That Prism Star for Darkness. Black Market. You know, I'd rather play Black Market in like an Eternatus VMax deck. So I don't know. I give it a 3 because it's a strong ability, but most of the time it's not too often that you have a hand size that's that low if you're building your deck correctly. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's a 3, and my reasoning for it being a 3 is that it is kind of a neutral stadium. And a lot of decks have really strong stadiums that are specifically for their archetype. So you do have like Black Market, for instance, for dark stuff. You have that, Giant Hearth for fire stuff. The other thing is too is drawing 3 really better than looking through your deck or discard pile for an energy? Because we do have like Training Court and we do have Viridian Forest as well. Like, would I rather be just searching for something specific off of my stadium instead of just doing like a blanket draw until you have 3 cards? So I do think that the stadium itself is kind of neutral. I think it's going to see more niche play than a lot of players have been talking about so far, and I think 3 is a good place for it. So
yeah, because like if you think about it, the 2 decks where you're probably going to play Rose the most is going to be in Eternatus VMax and Charizard VMax,
mm-hmm.
You know, something like that. Both of those already have really good Prism Star stadiums. You know, we have Heat Factory and we have Black Market.
Right.
So, you know, do we want to like cut those off? I mean, we granted we can only play one of them. You know, we can only play one of them.
But then Charizard has Giant Hearth too.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. There's other options. You know, so. Do we really want to be playing it in those decks as a drawback to Rose? I mean, maybe there's something else I'm not seeing here. But I mean, even in like a Butterfree VMax, mm-hmm. Turffield Stadium you want to play,
right?
You know, like you don't want to play Rose's Tower,
right?
So, you know, will it see play? I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3 just because that's a pretty powerful ability,
right? I think it's kind of yet to be seen. But let's go to our next one. We got Spikemouth here. Whenever a player's active Pokemon moves to the bench during their turn, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. I think, Winter, you sort of already mentioned this card as being something really good for spread. What's your number on this card? Talk us through that a little bit.
I give this somewhere between a 3 and a 4. Okay. Like if I really, this was kind of a hard one for me because like I'm trying to decide between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I would give this like a 3.5. I give this right in between because it's really powerful. but it also, like like you can gust, like you have boss's orders. Right. They're going to switch out. They're going to retreat. And just having that little extra damage on there for spread makes a difference.
Yeah.
But I can't decide whether or not it's a 3 or a 4 just based upon, because like who's going to be doing the retreating and switching and moving the bench more? Is it going to be you or your opponent?
Right.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm like up in the air about.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, dude. I think spread is weird. I think this stadium's amazing for spread. It's really, really good for spread. I'm going to give it a 3 just because I don't know what deck it goes in yet. Because I don't, and the reason is because like I don't know how good spread is, because spread, the pieces for spread are in the format right now. Like there are a lot of pieces that are really good at spreading damage, but at the same time, I'm not seeing a lot of lists that are doing and talking about spreading. So I'm really curious to see what spread is going to be like if it finds a place in the Darkness Ablaze meta. I'm not sure. I don't know. Spread is tough, especially when you're dealing with your VMaxes. Sableye can hit really hard, but setting that up, so almost like a checkmate kind of thing on your VMaxes, it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. So I'm curious to see if somebody really breaks spread. I think if they do, Spike Myth is going to be part of that. So I think it's a good card. I just don't know exactly where it's going to go yet. So,
right.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's take a look at our next one. We got Struggle Gloves. If this Pokemon has a weakness to your opponent's active Pokemon's type, its attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Worth pointing out that it's really hard to do 30 extra now. I think they realized that Choice Band was like way too broken. So they printed Struggle Gloves, which is a lot harder to accomplish. I think this is cool. I think if you're playing a deck that has a relevant weakness, you at least put one copy of this in your decks. So if you're playing Dark, if you're playing Grass, if you're playing I don't know, what else do you think? What other decks play Struggle Gloves, Winter?
Probably. Well, see, it's kind of weird because like decks that already have, because I'm trying to think here, like Darkness wouldn't play this against Fighting because Fighting is awful. Like Darkness wouldn't play this against Grass because Grass, like that's the thing, like the where you'd already like see this kind of card, like I mean maybe Grass against Fire. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe, or like Fire against, but Water's not that great. Like Darkness and Fire right now, I think. I mean, you could see like just the types that are typically oppressive, like Fighting and like Water, like against like a lot of the heavy hitter typings like Dark, Fire, even Colorless is good. Like VMax. Trying to think of the VMax is here. The Pokemon that are that they're weak against aren't really good typings in this current format right now. Yeah. So I don't really know where you'd play it, to be honest. I mean, maybe if you're like in Lightning against Fighting, maybe, but I don't know.
If you have weakness to Fire or Dark, I think that's when you play this card.
Yeah.
So like Metal might play this. If they're more of an attacking Metal, I could see that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm curious to see what Fighting shapes up to as well, because we do have a lot of relevant Pokemon that are weak to Fighting. I could see people trying to make Fighting work. So I mean, maybe Dark will start, and Dark and Colorless might start doing it as well, depending upon what Fighting ends up doing. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna give this card a 3 for the same reason I've given some of these other stadiums a 3, is because I think the card is good. I just don't know where it's gonna end up.
I'd give it honestly, I'm going to give it a 1. I mean, but here's the thing, like this is definitely like decks shouldn't need this card to like, because like Choice Band is just good all the way. Like I'm comparing a Choice Band or like Silver Bangle, and like those are good all the way around. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be GXs and EXs, but this you're specifically dealing more damage to Pokemon that you're weak against. Right. So, I mean, this card really just depends on how oppressive the typings are in any given format. You know what I mean? I don't think right now we have a really big deal. I think the typings that are really good, the Pokemon they're weak against aren't really good typings. Right. Like let's say Water against Fire and Fighting and Grass against Dark. They're just not good. Like, right. So I would give this a 1 right now, but I think in in a different meta, like if the meta changes while this is in standard, we could see this card become a little better.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good place to be. So let's move on to our next one. We've got Turbo Patch here. Turbo Patch, flip a coin. If heads, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your basic Pokemon that isn't Pokemon GX. Dude, I think this card's amazing. It is on a coin flip, but it gives that energy acceleration that some decks have really not had before. So I think I got to give this thing like a 4. What about you, Winter?
I'm giving it a 5. I think this card is amazing. This card might as well just say one of your basic Pokemon that isn't ADP.
Yeah,
that's literally because I mean, you know, Alter Creation on your turn, you know, going second, Alter Creation turn 1. It's nasty. That's like an expanded play, and you're doing it in. So that's pretty much the only reason why it says no Pokemon GX is for ADP. But no, I give this card a 5 because this card's so versatile. You can use this card anywhere, and yeah, it does have a drawback. But you can use this card anywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, you do have the downside of missing your flip, but I'm not really worried about that. I think this card is great.
Yeah, I almost gave this one a 5 as well. I ended up just like leaning more towards the 4, but I do think this card is amazing, and the versatility of it is a big reason why.
Yeah.
So very cool. All right, we're going to Yellhorn. Both active Pokemon are now confused. Winter, do you think this is relevant at all?
I think it could be if you play Galarian Rapidash.
Okay.
So I feel like you could do some kind of like let's say you like, because you can tech Galarian Rapidash anywhere, and you play this. I like how it just outright confuses. Like there's no coin flip, there's no nothing. Very often when you're doing an ability with a status condition, there's usually like some sort of coin flip.
Right.
But if you are just playing Galarian Rapidash, or even if you're playing like a stall deck, like even in as like extra security for Decidueye,
right?
You know, you know, like you could play this in there, heal it off you, or even just keep it on there if you're not going to attack with the, you know, if you're just like stalling to get what you need. But no, you just play Galarian Rapidash as like a combo with this, and you're good to go. You can just keep playing these. You know, you can play 4 of them. So
yeah,
make like some sort of weird like status condition deck. I think it's fine. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm gonna give it a 1. I'm just gonna like downvote it because I don't see confused. I don't think is as relevant as some other ones. Because no, poison can just like retreat. You know.
Yeah, poison and burn are yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. So I'm gonna downvote it, but I totally see what you're saying. I think like that is a really cool idea to play Galarian Rapidash, so you're only confusing your opponent. I think that's really cool. Or playing it before you're planning on switching or something. Like I do think that's pretty interesting. So, yeah. So Yellhorn. Let's move in. All right, so we got our last category here, which is our special energies. Let's start out with Heat Fire Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides fire energy. The fire energy this card is, or the fire Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 20 HP. Winter, you told me that you weren't really a huge fan of this card before we started recording. Why don't you flesh that out for us?
Sure. So I just think you're better off playing basic fire for Welder, and then, you know, Fire Crystal, you can get it back. Like there's so many targets for basic energy or basic fire energy. Like I would just play that. I mean, the 20 HP boost isn't really that relevant. I mean, I could see an argument for playing it in like CENTISKORCH just to make sure you're out of reach from some larger attacks where you try to stall. But I don't really like this card. I'm going to give it a 1. I think the plus 20 is just kind of wimpy for a card. I'd rather just play basic.
Yeah, I'm going to give this thing, I'm going to go up just a little bit to a 2 because I think that it could be relevant in Fire VMax decks. I don't think it's relevant in any other deck besides Fire VMax decks. And the only reason I say that is like if you can take your VMax out of 2-shotting range, you're doing really good. So I recognize that like against another VMax, that's not really going to do it. So if everybody's playing VMaxes anyway, like VMaxes get 2 shots, but they get like Eternatus hits for 270 twice. So like no amount of heat fire energy is going to help you there. But I think once we get into this format, there's going to be some decks that are VMaxes that are looking to one-shot anything but VMaxes. And the matchup is just sort of awkward when you go VMax versus VMax. But there's also going to be some decks that are not VMaxes that are going to be looking to 2-shot everything. And if you can take yourself out of that 2-shot range, I think it's actually pretty good. But that's the only application for it. So I'm going to give it a 2 because I definitely don't think it's as good as some of the other special energies.
Right.
Speaking of, let's go to this dark one. We got Hiding Darkness Energy. As long as this is attached to a Pokemon, it provides Darkness Energy. The Darkness Energy, or the Darkness Pokemon this card is attached to, has no retreat cost. I think this one's a little bit better. Taking away retreat cost is always pretty good. Dark Pokemon can use it, I guess. If you're going to have like a ton of dark Pokemon out with like Eternatus VMAX, you may want to have different ones active at different times. I'm not sure. So you can retreat, although I think once your Eternatus has to be active, I think, to give you the Skyfield, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so maybe it's not great in that. I'm not sure. What do you think about Hiding Darkness Energy?
I think it's good. I think it's a dark energy and a float stone. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's pretty awesome.
This will be really good in Turbo Dark and Expanded.
Yeah, I was gonna say having no retreat cost is like that's what you want. For dark decks only, I give it a I think across the board it's only relevant in dark decks, but I'm gonna give it a 4. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that as well with the 4. I'm not exactly sure how many counts of this we're gonna see, where it's gonna be, but the raw power of the card is pretty high, so I think I'm gonna be with you there on the 4. Very cool. All right, moving into our powerful colorless energy. This is the best one of the group, I think. So as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. The attacks of the colorless Pokemon this is attached to do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's strong energy for colorless Pokemon. Now the problem with this, the reason why it's not quite as good as strong energy, and why I'm probably only going to give it a 4 instead of a 5, is because fighting energy hits weakness, colorless does not. And so that's a bit of a problem because, that 20 damage is never going to be 40 damage. It's only going to be 20. So I think that is relevant, but I also think that a lot of colorless Pokemon need a little bit of a boost, and this is a really good thing to make that happen. So, that's where I'm at with powerful colorless energy. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 4. That plus 20 is insane. I mean, it is only for colorless Pokemon, and this would be kind of cool to jam in like a fighting deck or something. But no, it's for colorless only. I think this could be really good with Porygon Z for just like spamming those energies on like Snorlax. Because that Snorlax deck that plays Porygon Z,
right?
Or you put it on the Salamence. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I think it's a straight 4, with the only downside being you can only use it on colorless Pokemon.
Yeah, I agree. Very cool. And I believe that's the end of our set review. Man, what a sad time to get to the end of our set review, man. This has been so cool. Like I think that this set is going to be really awesome. I think Darkness Ablaze as a whole is probably better than the other Sword and Shield ones that you've said. What do you think in the 3 Sword and Shield sets that we've gotten, where do you think Darkness Ablaze sits?
That's a great question. I think it's the best one so far.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think there's a lot of meta-defining stuff in here.
Yeah, I'd say probably this, then Sword and Shield base, then Rebel Clashes last right now.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I'm really excited to see how these things shape the format. Now, for those of you guys that are watching this video, first I want to say thank you for staying until the end. We're so happy here at Unison Games to have such a cool community like you guys. But the other thing I want to mention is, there's a lot of meta-defining stuff in this, which means there's going to be a lot of content coming to you guys about Darkness Ablaze stuff, including openings, but also other things as well. So make sure that you stay tuned. If you're not a subscriber already and you're watching this, you should definitely become a subscriber, because we've got all kinds of really cool stuff coming. We have tons and tons and tons of cool content that's very diversified. So if you like Pokemon or if you like card games in general, you should definitely subscribe. And if you're curious to see what happens with Darkness Ablaze, definitely subscribe. We're going to be covering that. Of course, we want you guys to leave us a comment with what your favorite card from Darkness Ablaze is. Winter, what did you tell me your favorite card was from Darkness Ablaze?
Oh, it's so hard to choose. I mean, probably Golisopod. Probably Golisopod. I just think that card's really cool. I think it's a really powerful stage 1.
Yeah, Golisopod's pretty good. I like Golisopod a lot. I don't know what my favorite is. I got a couple really good ones. I will say that I do like that Tyranitar. I know it's not good, but I like it.
Yeah.
I like the Tyranitar. So I think I'm going to say Tyranitar. Probably CENTISKORCH after that. But yeah, no, this is a really sweet set. I'm excited to see it. So make sure you guys don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. And make sure you ring that bell for notifications if you haven't already. Of course, if you like this video, throw us a like. That helps the channel quite a bit. And leave a comment with what your favorite card is from this set. Wynter, thank you so much for joining me for the set review. It's always better to do it with more than one person, so I really appreciate you taking the time this morning to record this and share your thoughts. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you very soon in the next video.
Team Metroflex! Woo!
Yes!